Chapter 1004. See under D. Genius 1 second remember love/go/small? Shuo.net provides you with wonderful novels to read. Almost all the books you want to read are here. It's much more stable than the average website and updates faster. It's all text with no advertisements. What are the benefits? If the benefits are big enough, I'll consider it, Night Sorrow said. You're really unscrupulous. Let me tell you, in 3 years, it should be more than 2 years, it's the first saint ceremony of the 100 realms. It's to choose the strongest saint king from the 100 realms around the 9 heavens world. If you get a ranking, the benefits will be great. My great ancestor said that if the members of the Tianxian world get the top few, there will be great rewards. There's no problem with cultivation resources. In addition, the 9 heavens world will open the will of heaven and earth cave to the top few, allowing the strongest saint king to strengthen his will comprehension, Qianyu said. Fair? Fair. If it's not fair I won't go, Night Sorrow said. You're being petty. These are all petty thoughts. Do you know who's in charge of this conference? It's the monarchs of a few realms. My great ancestor will be there. Who do you think can come? Qianyu looked at Night Sorrow and rolled his eyes. That's not bad. Interesting. Night Sorrow understood that there should be no problem with fairness. I've been talking to you for a long time, and you're just a little interesting. I'm speechless. How can the 9 regions world produce an anomaly like you? I don't care. I'll look for you when the time comes. All right, where can I find you? Qianyu only knew the reason why the Tiannan dynasty wanted Night Sorrow, but he didn't know the specific situation of Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow reported his home, then waved at Qianyu and left the tea house. He took the teleportation formation and went to another city for a stroll. Night Sorrow's attitude made Qianyu so angry that he slammed the table. He felt that Night Sorrow was too despicable. He talked for a long time, but Night Sorrow didn't give him a definite answer. When Qianyu slammed the table, 2 women entered the tea house. A woman in a pink dress looked at Qianyu. You, what made you slap the table? Tell second sister. Second sister will vent your anger for you. Is it because of Chen Bai? It's not Chen Bai. It's another bastard. I'm so angry, Qianyu said after taking a big sip of tea. If you don't cause trouble, we'll look for whoever bullies you. She was the first princess of the Shentian Empire, Chen Ziwei. She wore a golden dress and a phoenix hairpin. Her face was cold and her eyes were cold and arrogant. Big sister, don't add to the chaos. I was attacked by someone just now. I fought with him, but he didn't even attack. My attacks were all ineffective. Then he gave me a beating. Qianyu said gloomily. Then why don't you tell second sister what happened? Whoever gives you a hard time, we'll take care of him, said the woman in a pink dress. She was Qianyu's second sister, Qian Chengwei. I'm not taking care of him. I'm not looking for trouble with him. I'm just angry at his attitude. I can't describe how I feel. I don't want to take care of him. That's not right. I want to beat him up, but I can't. Qianyu couldn't describe his feelings. Then, Qianyu explained his encounter with Yi Shang, as well as some of Yi Shang's experiences in the No Weave. Then, Chen Ziwei expressed her opinion. She knew that Night Sorrow was a wanted man in the Tiannan Empire. She was from the Shentian Empire and naturally knew some things. Chen Ziwei felt that Qianyu had a noble status, but this status was invalid in the eyes of some people. At least, it was invalid in Night Sorrow's eyes. Night Sorrow dared to take care of Shang Zhengchun, so he wasn't afraid of Qianyu. However, Chen Ziwei felt that Night Sorrow was a good friend. That's right. Think about it. Back then, Chen Bai and Hei Feng used the no-beginning disc array to suppress King Kong King, but Night Sorrow still snatched the limitless longevity fruit. It's right for people with ability to have character, said Qian Chengwei. That's right. The Tianding Gate is a large alchemy sect. Big sister wants to ask someone to refine the spirit comprehension pill. We have the materials, but it's not easy to find a high-level Saint King alchemist. Let's go to the Tianding Gate and get to know this bastard. If he can participate in the first sage assembly of 100 realms and get a ranking, our Shentian Empire will give him some rewards, said Chen Ziwei after thinking for a while. Then let's go to the Tianding Gate. Qianyu agreed immediately. He still wanted to fight with Night Sorrow. He was in a passive position when chatting, so he was very depressed. Chen Ziwei, Chen Qiangwei, and Chen Yu arrived at the Tianding gate. Elder Xiang wasn't there. Yan Huifeng was there to receive them. Yan Huifeng hadn't been in seclusion recently, so he was calming down. Currently, there are only 2 people in the Tianding gate who can refine the spirit comprehension pill. King is in seclusion all year round. If he doesn't show up, we can't find him. The other person is our Danding Peak's Peak Lord, Night Sorrow. He can refine it. I'll bring the 2 princesses and princes over, said Yan Huifeng to Chen Ziwei and the other 2. When they arrived at Danding Peak, Hua Yunpeng and Zhu Zhuyun's clones received them. Knowing that Night Sorrow wasn't there, Chen Yu muttered, "This bastard isn't here. Did he leave Shentian Empire City and didn't come back?" "How can you say that?" Zhu Zhuyun was unhappy after hearing Chen Yu's words. "I'm sorry. He made me angry." Chen Yu was stunned for a moment before apologizing. Then, Zhu Zhuyun called Wu Lingfei over. Wu Lingfei then crushed Night Sorrow's messaging crystal. Night Sorrow, who was still wandering around, felt his own messaging crystal shatter. He took the teleportation array and rushed back to Danding Peak. Seeing Chen Yu and the others, Night Sorrow was stunned. "You bastard, why are you still here? Didn't you say that you could come find me 3 years later when you want to go? What are you doing here now? Can't you be more reasonable? I can't come to the Tianding gate in less than 3 years?" Chen Yu was furious after being scolded by Night Sorrow. "All right, you're awesome. The leg is on you. You can go wherever you want. Then tell me what you want." Night Sorrow found a seat and sat down. "It's like this. I'm Chen Ziwei. I'm planning to ask Master Knight to refine some pills." Chen Ziwei was speechless. She could see that there was no conflict between Night Sorrow and Chen Yu. They just didn't get along with each other. Therefore, she couldn't be bothered to ask. "Master Knight, this is Princess Ziwei from the Shentian dynasty of the Tianxian world. She wants to refine some spirit enlightenment pills. The materials are ready." Yan Huifeng was a little stunned. Night Sorrow didn't like the only male direct descendant of the Shentian dynasty, Chen Yu. He didn't even give him any face. Night Sorrow greets Princess Ziwei. "Please forgive me if I've offended you." Night Sorrow stood up and cupped his hands at Chen Ziwei. "Master Knight, you're too polite. My brother has been spoiled by us sisters. Please don't take offense if he's offended you. I have some peak Saint Kings in the Black Scale Army. They've always been fighting to protect the Tianxian world. Therefore, I plan to refine some spirit enlightenment pills to increase their chances of comprehending intent. How will the cost be calculated?" Chen Ziwei asked. "You update square root newbie fastest OB up unspecified currency. Protect the Tianxian world?" Night Sorrow was stunned. "Yes. Their existence isn't to protect the Shentian dynasty but the Tianxian world. Even if the Shentian dynasty is destroyed in the internal war of the Tianxian world, they won't interfere. This is the order of the great ancestor." Chen Ziwei nodded. Chapter 1005. See Underserty. Genius 1 second remember love/go/little? Shuo.net provides you with wonderful novels to read. Can you do it? Don't waste my sister's materials. Chen Yu said. What's wrong with you? Night Sorrow turned and glared at Chen Yu. You, don't say any more. Teacher Night, when are we coming to get the pills? Chen Ziwei looked at Chen Yu and asked Night Sorrow. When? Just wait here, it won't take long. Take out the materials. Night Sorrow shook his head. After sizing up Night Sorrow again, Chen Ziwei took out some materials and placed them on the table. 3 furnaces of materials. Night Sorrow said. Yes, 1 furnace is enough. Chen Ziwei nodded. Normally, when finding an alchemist to refine a pill, 3 furnaces of materials in exchange for 1 furnace of finished product. Because there was a chance of failure, 1 furnace of materials was prepared for failure and 1 furnace of materials was the alchemist's reward. Yi Shang sorted the materials and took out 2 alchemy furnaces. One was for refining the main material, while the other was for refining the supplementary materials. Then, he began refining. Don't all alchemists need assistance to refine high-level pills? He's just directly refining. Won't he waste the materials? Chen Ziwei said. I don't care who you are. Since you're here to ask someone to refine pills, please respect him. Wu Lingfei heard Chen Ziwei's words and was unhappy. So many good novels. Chen Ziwei looked to the side. Now that she had her brother's enlightenment, the feeling of not being able to fight back was really uncomfortable. 10 hours later, Night Sorrow's furnace of spirit comprehension pills came out of the furnace and put it into a jade bottle. Then it was the second furnace. After a day and a half, Night Sorrow finished refining 3 furnaces of spirit comprehension pills. All of them were successful without a single failure. Princess Ziwei, I didn't disappoint you. Keep the 3 furnaces of spirit comprehension pills. Night Sorrow wiped his hands with the towel that Aoi handed over. After taking a look at the elixir, Chen Ziwei bowed slightly to Night Sorrow. This is a high-quality elixir. Teacher Night's alchemy skills are unparalleled. Princess Ziwei is too polite. I have said before that I respect those who protect our homeland. I also hope to do something for them, Night Sorrow said. Well said. My little brother is not very sensible. Don't mind him, Chen Ziwei said. She had some understanding of Night Sorrow's personality. It's nothing. I won't stoop to his level, Night Sorrow said with a smile. Who's not on the same level as who? What did you say? What did you say? Chen Yu's eyes were about to turn blue from anger at Night Sorrow. Haha. There's nothing wrong with chatting and laughing. Everyone, take a seat. We've been watching Master Yi concoct pills all this while. We haven't even drunk any tea yet. Yan Huifeng said. He was now in awe of Night Sorrow. No one could make the 2 princesses and princes of the Shen-Tian Empire lose their temper. Chen Yu looked at Night Sorrow and said, Let me ask you, are you going to the ceremony of the first saint of 100 realms? Why are you so excited about whether I'm going or not? Night Sorrow said after taking a sip of water. This is a chance to bring glory to the profound sky world. How can I not be excited? Chen Ren slammed his hands on the table as he spoke. Bring glory to the profound sky world? The Sky Profound World South Sky Dynasty slaughters my 9-domain world every 10,000 years, harvesting the saint crystals of our 9-domain world as materials. You want me to win glory for the Sky Profound World? Yi Shang was a little angry, and his voice was agitated. Master Yi, these are the internal conflicts of the profound sky world. No matter how wrong the Tiannan dynasty is, or how you want to take revenge, it doesn't matter. But this time, we are dealing with outsiders, Chen Ziwei said. Perhaps. At that time, I didn't answer Chen Yu directly. I just wanted to think about it, Night Sorrow said with a sigh. I didn't think it through enough. It was a little difficult, but you can't ignore the big picture just because of a villain. Participating in the first Saint of 100 Realms will be beneficial to you personally. After hearing Night Sorrow's words, Chen Yu calmed down. Night Sorrow nodded and didn't say anything. He had been avoiding this question and didn't agree because he still had some choices in his heart. After that, everyone stopped talking about this topic. After all, Night Sorrow had made it very clear. Chen Ziwei, Chen Chengwei, and Chen Yu didn't leave either. They stayed in the bamboo forest house. Chen Yu wanted to find Night Sorrow to spar with. Night Sorrow didn't refuse to spar with him. He also wanted to train himself. Seeing Night Sorrow and Chen Yu spar, Chen Ziwei and Chen Chengwei knew why Chen Yu was so depressed and angry. Night Sorrow didn't attack strongly, but every time he used his spear, he would interrupt Chen Yu's attack. Chen Yu didn't have a chance to use his full strength. After the spar, Night Sorrow stayed with his family. After following his sister back to the guest room, Chen Yu asked his 2 sisters how they could resolve this situation. No, your speed is at a complete disadvantage. Your attack power is also inferior to his, so you can't win. Chen Ziwei was a half-step king. She could see Night Sorrow and Chen Yu's situation clearly. Then there's no other way. Chen Yu shook his head helplessly. Some people are favored by the heavens. Night Sorrow is one of them. His willpower is a pure high-level attribute willpower. Ordinary willpower, even fused ordinary willpower, is useless. I've never heard of anyone controlling a pure high-level willpower. It's too heaven-defying, Chen Ziwei said. Night Sorrow told his family about the first sage ceremony of the 100 Realms. I think you need to participate, Wu Lingfei said. You can't let Tiannan dynasty's matters affect your own development. Your own development is also very important. Yes, you need to participate. You need to improve your strength to have a chance of defeating Tiannan dynasty. Yi Wuyo had the same opinion as Wu Lingfei. Knight Sorrow thought about it and nodded. He felt that Wu Lingfei and his father were right. He had to seize the opportunity to improve himself. When he invited Qian Ziwei and the others for tea again, Knight Sorrow was surprised that Qian Yu was not going to spar. Knight Sorrow, think about it, Qian Yu said. I think you should go, but I won't make things difficult for you. My two sisters and I will go back first. We've disturbed you during this time. I'm not used to you being so polite. I've thought about it and decided to go. Maybe you're right. Knight Sorrow said. I'll look for you when the time comes. Qian Yu waved his arm. Master Yi, are you interested in joining the Black Scale Army of the Heaven Mystic World? Qian Ziwei asked. Princess Ziwei, I'm sorry, but I'm a newcomer to the Heaven Mystic World. I don't know anything, so I can't answer you directly. Knight Sorrow said embarrassedly. Okay, you can think about it. I'm the manager of the Black Scale Army, but the army commander and two vice army commanders are king. They're still very high level. I'll make the appropriate arrangements. Qian Ziwei said. Chapter 1006. See Undesert. Genius 1 second remember love/go/little? I'll provide you with some interesting novels to read. So many good novels. Well, I won't force you, but the higher-ups in the army are very free. They can only be there when there's a war. If you go, you can be the commander. All right, let's not talk about it anymore. Thank you very much. If you need any help in the future, you can find me at the Xian Tian dynasty. Qian Ziwei smiled at Knight Sorrow. Then, she led Qian Qiangwei and Qian Yu out of the bamboo grove and away from the Tianding gate. While Knight Sorrow was thinking, Yan Huifeng and Zhu Jiuyun arrived. They left. Yan Huifeng sat down and asked with a smile. They left. What's the situation with the Black Scale Army? Knight Sorrow asked. It's the guard army of the Mysterious Sky World. It was established by the founding emperor of the Mysterious Sky Dynasty, the Mysterious Sky Monarch. It has a high status and does not interfere with any internal conflicts in the Mysterious Sky World. However, the one in charge has always been the Qian family of the Mysterious Sky Dynasty, Yan Huifeng said. Knight Sorrow, this army doesn't mean much to you. You don't plan to join. Why are you thinking about this? Zhu Jiuyun said. I refined elixirs for them. I want to know if Qian Ziwei is telling the truth, Knight Sorrow said. It's very difficult to join the Black Scale Army. The members of the army can do whatever they want in the Mysterious Sky World. No one dares to provoke them. The Black Scale Army does not interfere with internal conflicts in the Mysterious Sky World. However, if anyone dares to provoke them, they will seek revenge. The army commander is the Thousand Tyrant King, an unreasonable guy. If you have the chance, you should join. This means that you will have a firm foothold in the Mysterious Sky World. Yan Huifeng said, I like this kind of website the most. You must give it a good review. She invited me, but I rejected her. I don't have the time right now. I have to break through to the King Realm first. This is the most important thing, Knight Sorrow said. Hearing Knight Sorrow's words, Yan Huifeng was stunned. This was a rare opportunity for other cultivators, but Knight Sorrow rejected it directly. Cultivate first, but don't enter the Sovereign King Realm within the next 3 years. The First Sage Assembly of the 100 Worlds is a grand event. Only those below the Sovereign King Realm can participate. Even half-step Sovereign Kings can participate, but once you enter the Sovereign King Realm, you won't have the chance. If you get into the top 10, you will have the opportunity to cultivate in the will of the heavens and earth, which will greatly increase your chances of entering the Sovereign King Realm. After entering the Sovereign King Realm, your chances of comprehending the will also increase greatly. Yan Huifeng explained. Yan Huifeng shook his head, because Saint Kings had no chance. Even peak stage Saint Kings did not have much of a chance, because those who went were practically all half-step Saint Kings. Can avatars participate? Knight Sorrow asked. No, it has to be the original body. Avatars can't be hidden. Let's not talk about the King Realm first. Many sovereigns will attend the First Sage Conference of the 100 Realms. Using avatars will be a serious problem. Yan Huifeng shook his head. After being in a daze for a while, Yan Huifeng left. Yi Shang was having a headache. His original body was still in the midst of intense cultivation. If his original body went to participate in the will of the heavens and earth's cave abodes to cultivate, then his original body's comprehension would have to stop, which would delay his time to enter the sovereign king realm. However, if he did not participate, his comprehension of the will of heaven and earth and the will of heaven and earth would also be a problem. Since he couldn't figure it out, Knight Sorrow stopped thinking about it. His doppelganger began to cultivate his battle skills. His battle skills needed to be improved. His original body's comprehension of the will of heaven and earth was getting deeper and deeper. This was a great support for his spatial attacks. As for the people around Knight Sorrow, they were all cultivating in the pagoda of time and space. The god-slaying team would sometimes go out to train. The rest of the time they cultivated in the pagoda of time and space. Half a year passed. Knight Sorrow's 3 wives had entered the Saint Realm one after another. They had survived the lightning tribulation and had a lifespan of 3,000 years. The other members of the god-slaying team had also improved rapidly. Yun Huang and Liang Yu were both peak sovereigns. With the saint crystals that Knight Sorrow had obtained, they had already begun to comprehend the laws. At the same time, Ling Long and Qin Zhen were also comprehending the laws. Guan Yu was in a strange state. He was searching for something in the blank memory of the dark spirit saint. As for Tianyu, he had entered the saint realm early and had time acceleration. He was now a mid-level saint. Yi Mei had caught up later and was now a 3-star saint. Father Gu had also successfully entered the 5th level. In the process of drinking again, Knight Sorrow gave Father Gu a 10,000 life boundless elixir. This way, Father Gu unknowingly gained 10,000 years of lifespan. As for the others around Knight Sorrow, they didn't need to use the 10,000 life boundless elixir yet. Knight Sorrow's main body continuously activated the 7th bloodline energy point. Although there was still a long way to go, after corresponding with the will of heaven and earth, Knight Sorrow's comprehension of the will of space deepened a lot. His comprehension of the will began to advance. The half-step king's strength varied. It was related to one's combat strength, attributes, and comprehension of the will of heaven and earth. Comprehending 10% of the will of heaven and earth was the king realm. Comprehending 50% of this 10% would make one a half-step king. Between 50% and 10%, one would be a half-step king. However, the difference between 50% and 90% was still very big. As time passed, Knight Sorrow's comprehension of the will of space deepened. From 50% to 60% to 70%, Knight Sorrow stopped cultivating. If he continued to cultivate, it would be easy for him to break through to the king realm. However, he still had to participate in the first Saint of 100 Realms assembly, so he could only delay his breakthrough to the king realm. Look at ##Zhengjie$. After the main body stopped cultivating and returned, Knight Sorrow's clone merged with the main body. Half a year before the first Saint of 100 Realms assembly, Qianyu ran to Knight Sorrow's place and continued to spar with Knight Sorrow. However, after one spar he stopped. He was very depressed. He originally thought that after working hard for 2 years, the gap between him and Knight Sorrow would be smaller. However, in reality, he was still suppressed by Knight Sorrow. What Qianyu didn't know was that Knight Sorrow didn't use the full will of space. If that was the case, he wouldn't be able to fight. Knight Sorrow was afraid of hurting him. 3 months after Qianyu arrived at the bamboo grove, Qian Ziwei and Qian Qiangwei also arrived. They were going to follow Qianyu to the 9 Heavens realm. Knight Sorrow's parents and wife, Wu Lingfei, Xue Shi, and Zhu Zhuyun also planned to go and watch. Normally, it was very difficult to watch. The first Saint of 100 Realms assembly didn't prohibit watching, but there weren't many people who could watch closely. However, the Shen-Tian dynasty had some spots, so Qian Ziwei could bring everyone. Since old Xiang wasn't there, Knight Sorrow greeted Yan Huifeng and left with Qian Ziwei and the others. After leaving the Tianding gate, Knight Sorrow asked, "Princess Ziwei, I would like to ask you something." "Master Knight, don't be so polite. Just ask," said Qian Ziwei. "Can I choose any attribute of the will of heaven and earth cave?" Knight Sorrow asked the question he was most concerned about. "Yes, except for the supreme attribute of the will of heaven and earth. You can choose the others." Qian Ziwei nodded. Chapter 1007. See under D. Genius 1 second remember love /go/small? Xiaofan provides you with wonderful novels to read. Cotton candy novel website Myanhuating. CC updates quickly. The website is clean and has few advertisements. I love this kind of website the most. Actually, Night Sorrow was mainly going for the true meaning of nothingness. After all, the true meaning of time was at the desolate river in the Sky Dome world. Don't worry. You have all 4 attributes of willpower. You won't have a problem. Chen Yu patted Night Sorrow's shoulder and said. Initial release of square root P version. Night Sorrow smiled and nodded. He knew his own situation, but some things could not be said. Wu Lingfei also shook her head at Night Sorrow. Some secrets were better kept. Otherwise it would be fatal. The Nine Heavens world was the largest world near the Sky Mysterious world. There were hundreds of worlds around it. The Sky Mysterious world was 1,000 times bigger than the Nine Regions world, but it was still much smaller in front of the Nine Heavens world. Under Chen Ziwei's lead, the group arrived at the Nine Heavens world's Nine Heavens city. It was the first city of the Nine Heavens world. It should be called the first city of the 100 worlds. The ceremony of the first saint of the 100 worlds was held at the Nine Heavens mountain in the Nine Heavens city. After Chen Ziwei brought the group to the Nine Heavens mountain, someone came to receive them. After checking their tokens, they were arranged to stay in a guest house. Princess Ziwei, this is the resting area of the Sky Mysterious world. This city is really grand. The Nine Heavens mountain is really majestic. Night Sorrow said emotionally. If you have feelings, can you not say it? I know you're a country bumpkin. Chen Yu looked at Night Sorrow with disdain. So what if I'm a country bumpkin? Who can bite me? Night Sorrow looked at Chen Yu and said. You're proud of being a country bumpkin. I don't know you. Chen Yu turned to look at the other side. I'm willing to know you? Night Sorrow glared at Chen Yu. You two are the same. Chen Ziwei shook her head helplessly. She could not convince Chen Yu. She also could not persuade Night Sorrow. After that, the group settled down. Night Sorrow didn't dare to cultivate right now. If he made a breakthrough, then it would be a waste of time. Although there was a desolate river where he could comprehend the will of time, it was still good to have another place to comprehend it. After all, different places where the will of heaven and earth manifested would display different things. Night Sorrow also knew that the will of time and will of space could be superimposed. There was a saying about the will of time and space, but it needed to be fused. The prerequisite was a kind of pellet. The pellet's level was not high, but it was hard to find the ingredients. It was called the dual polarity pellet, but Night Sorrow already had the ingredients. Half a month after Night Sorrow stayed in the Sky Profound world, some people came to the Sky Profound world. It was Chen Bai, Haifeng, and Qing Yin. After receiving the news, Night Sorrow went to welcome them. Hee, we went to the Tianding Gate and found out that you were in the Nine Heavens realm, so we came to take a look. We didn't expect you to really be here. Chen Bai cupped his hands at Night Sorrow. We left a few days earlier, so we might have missed you. Night Sorrow brought them to his room and took out a tea table to make tea. This is my third senior sister, Qing Yin. Haifeng introduced Qing Yin to Night Sorrow. Greetings, Holy King Qing Yin. Night Sorrow cupped his hands at Qing Yin. Those who hadn't entered the king's realm were considered holy kings, so Night Sorrow addressed her as such. Qing Yin thanks Holy King Night Sorrow for extending my life. Qing Yin cupped her hands at Night Sorrow. You're welcome. Just call me Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow smiled. What are you two doing here? Chen Yu, who came out of his room, saw Chen Bai and Haifeng, and said rudely, What does our visit have to do with you? Haifeng replied when he heard Chen Yu's rudeness. What level are you at? Won't people laugh at you if you say that? Sit down and have some tea. Night Sorrow was speechless. Chen Yu and Haifeng were vulgar. They were no different from ruffians in the marketplace. Yes, a battle is a battle. We don't have any grudges, so there's no need to take it to heart. Qing Yin said. That's right. I'm Chen Ziwei from the Shentian dynasty. Greetings, King of No Beginning. Chen Ziwei cupped her hands at Qing Yin and the others. Princess Ziwei. I've heard of Princess Ziwei before. This must be Princess Rose. Qing Yin stood up and cupped her hands at Chen Ziwei and Chen Ziwei. Then everyone chatted casually. Chen Ziwei, Qing Yin, and Chen Bai chatted very well. Qian Yu and Heifeng looked at each other like two roosters. What's going on with you two? Knight Sorrow was speechless. He had to say something now. After all, he was the middleman between the two groups. Nothing. It's just that this guy is too arrogant. Heifeng said. How am I arrogant? Qian Yu snorted. All right, it's fate to sit together and drink tea. Everyone, give me some face. Let's not quarrel. Knight Sorrow said with a smile. After hearing Knight Sorrow's words, the two calmed down. Knight Sorrow also understood that Qian Yu and Heifeng, who came from monarch-level forces, were arrogant people. After a while, Qing Yin expressed her gratitude again and left with her two junior brothers. After that, Yi Shang returned to his room as well. A moment later, his three wives came to his room. Half-step king doesn't have any manners, Yang Lei said. Yang Lei and the others knew that Qing Yin and the others came. They just didn't come out. There was nothing to say even if they did. Half-step king is also human. It's normal to have emotions and desires. Knight Sorrow said with a smile. 13, you're calm enough. They're a little lacking in manners. Aoi said. Perhaps. It's also because of their personalities. Knight Sorrow said with a smile. The state of mind is the state of mind. They were born in a large world, but they definitely haven't seen as much as Knight Sorrow as the Realm Lord. Their state of mind is a little lacking. Wu Lingfei came to Knight Sorrow's room. Haha. Aunt Fei is here. Aunt Fei is improving very quickly. Knight Sorrow said with a smile. Among the people around Knight Sorrow, Wu Lingfei's cultivation speed was the fastest. She was now a peak 4-star Holy King and was on her way to becoming a 5-star Holy King. It's all because of your time-space pagoda. Otherwise, it wouldn't be so fast. Wu Lingfei nodded at Yi Shang. When Yi Shang's avatar was outside, the space-time pagoda was placed in the bamboo grove. Everyone around him could go in and cultivate. This way, it wouldn't affect their cultivation. We have to work hard. You're already rushing towards the king's realm. We can't just stay here. Xuexi also entered Knight Sorrow's room. You're all doing well. I'm just lucky. You can participate in the next first sage ceremony of the 100 realms. Knight Sorrow said. He knew that the cultivators of the 9 domains world were too inexperienced and needed time, including himself. Maybe by the next first sage ceremony of the 100 realms, we'll have already entered the king's realm. Wu Lingfei said. She was very confident in herself. Haha, I was wrong. It's my fault. We'll all be kings in the future. There's no problem. Knight Sorrow smiled embarrassedly. He knew that compared to other cultivators, the people around him didn't lack talent. What they lacked was time and foundation. Chapter 1008. See under D. Genius 1 second remember love/go/small? This is a wonderful novel for you to read. Quick update. The website is clean and has few advertisements. I love this kind of website. You must leave a good review. In fact, there were many half-step king realm cultivators who couldn't enter the king's realm. Many people were just a little bit away, but they couldn't enter the king's realm and died due to the limitations of their lifespan. The king's realm was a giant that didn't have lifespan limitations. It wasn't easy to enter. For example, the Tianding Gate had been passed down for tens of thousands of years, and only old Xiang was a king. Those who could enter the king's realm were all geniuses. The group chatted casually, and the atmosphere was very harmonious. This was what Knight Sorrow liked the most. He was happy to see people around him being harmonious and not fighting. Knight Sorrow didn't cultivate will comprehension. He couldn't improve his foundation. He just practiced his spear arts every day, looking for the feeling of the will of space, and fusing it into his spear arts. Knight Sorrow had already comprehended 90% of the will of space. The most obvious aspect was speed. Movement speed and attack speed were two types of speed that greatly increased combat power. Qian Ziwei and her brother often came to Knight Sorrow to drink tea and chat. Qian Ziwei was especially interested in Knight Sorrow. She liked refining. During one of their conversations, she learned that Knight Sorrow was also proficient in refining, so she often asked for advice. Knight Sorrow couldn't talk about the inheritance, but he could still talk about his personal understanding of refining with Qian Ziwei. Author, Qing Yin, Chen Bai, and Heifeng also often came to drink tea and chat with Night Sorrow. 2 months passed in the blink of an eye. The first sage of the 100-world ceremony was getting closer and closer. Night Sorrow was also a bit annoyed. The reason for Night Sorrow's irritation wasn't the pressure of the first sage of the 100 Realms Grand Ceremony, but the first sage of the 100 Realms Grand Ceremony was delaying his time. If it weren't for the first sage of the 100 Realms Grand Ceremony, he would have cultivated in seclusion and would have been able to comprehend the last bit of the will of space. But now, he could only wait. No one could understand why Night Sorrow was so anxious. The ceremony of the first saint of the 100 realms was just around the corner. Everyone should be excited. Sister-in-law Sikong, what's the situation with Night Sorrow? Qian Yu, who had been scolded by Night Sorrow, asked Sikong Chuyu and the others. Qian Yu quarreled with Night Sorrow, but he was very respectful to the people around Night Sorrow. I don't know. Maybe something affected his mood. It shouldn't have anything to do with the first sage of the 100 Realms ceremony. Sikong Chuyu said. We can't provoke this guy now. I didn't say anything just now. He just yelled at me. Qian Yu rubbed his nose. I'm sorry. We don't know about Night Sorrow's situation either. His mood has always been very stable. Who knows what happened to him in the past few days? Aoi cupped her hands and apologized to Qian Yu, Chen Ziwei, and the others. Haha. It's nothing. Everyone has a bad mood sometimes. Night Sorrow is also a sentimental person, Chen Ziwei said with a smile. At this time, Wu Lingfei had brewed a pot of tea and was talking to Night Sorrow, asking about Night Sorrow's situation. Night Sorrow didn't hide anything from Wu Lingfei and told her about his situation. There's no rush. You can first comprehend the will of space as a foundation. When things are settled here, you can go back and break through, Wu Lingfei said with a smile. After knowing about Night Sorrow's situation, she was really happy because this meant that the 9 regions world would soon have a king. This meant that a new era was coming. Auntie Fei, you don't know. I can take that step very soon, but I have to wait. This feeling is very unpleasant, Night Sorrow said. Don't worry. Good things are never too late. Don't worry. Look at how happy I was when I found out, Wu Lingfei said with a smile. Good things are never too late. I'll wait. Auntie Fei, you don't know. I've always wanted to turn around and go back to cultivate in peace. Now that I've heard Auntie Fei's words, I feel a little better, Night Sorrow said. Drink a cup of tea to calm your heart. Just treat it as accompanying Auntie Fei and chew you out to relax. Besides, you have a place to comprehend the will of space, and there's no place for the other wills to manifest. You can't give up on comprehending the other wills, so this is a great opportunity, Wu Lingfei said to Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow nodded. Yes, there are gains and losses. However, in comparison, the losses are smaller. In other words, I'll enter the king's realm later. Seeing that Night Sorrow's mentality and emotions had changed, Wu Lingfei felt a little relieved. Night Sorrow, who came out of Wu Lingfei's room, once again became the calm Night Sorrow who faced everything. After stabilizing his emotions, Night Sorrow held the reincarnation spear and brandished it one by one, searching for the feeling of the spear. You're in a good mood, Qian Yu said as he walked over. I was a little uneasy a few days ago. If I've offended you, please forgive me. Night Sorrow nodded at Qian Yu. He recalled that his attitude towards Qian Yu was indeed bad a few days ago. It's nothing. Everyone will scold you when they're in a bad mood, as long as you're happy, Qian Yu said with a smile. You're so manly. Night Sorrow gave Qian Yu a thumbs up. I can't help it. Am I supposed to scold you back? I'm not that kind of person, Qian Yu said with a smile. Night Sorrow took out 2 jars of wine and threw one to Qian Yu. This is good wine. I usually don't bear to take it out. I'll have to try it. Qian Yu opened a wine jar and drank a mouthful. Night Sorrow also opened a wine jar and drank a mouthful with Qian Yu. It's strong enough and has a long aftertaste. It's a rare good wine, Qian Yu said. There's good wine. Can't just the 2 of you drink it? Take out some more. Chen Ziwei and Chen Chengwei walked over. No problem. As long as Princess Ziwei doesn't mind. Night Sorrow took out another jar of wine. New chapter, Section P above ZB. I'll call the servants to send some dishes over. Chen Chengwei smiled and went to call the servants. Night Sorrow also called Wu Lingfei, Xuexi, Zhu Jiuyun, and his 3 wives. As for his parents, they were still cultivating in the space-time pagoda. As they drank, everyone became more talkative. I've never drunk with strangers. Today, we're drinking together. From now on, Night Sorrow is my brother. If there's anything, just call me. I'll definitely be there. Qianyu looked at Night Sorrow and said, "You're a sentimental person. I'll acknowledge you as my brother, but not for now." Night Sorrow shook his head and said, "What do you mean? Are you looking down on me? I, Qianyu, am a man without relying on my family background." Hearing Night Sorrow's words, Qianyu panicked. "It's not that I'm looking down on you. When I'm done with Tiannan dynasty, we'll be brothers." Night Sorrow raised his head and drank 2 mouthfuls of wine. "What's wrong with that? You're overthinking it." Qianyu smiled. He did not care about Night Sorrow's reason. Chapter 1009. The enmity between me and the South Sky Dynasty is as deep as the ocean. As long as I'm alive, I must eradicate the South Sky Dynasty, so you can't be my brother right now. Night Sorrow shook his head. Your brother is Qianyu, not the prince of the Black Sky Dynasty. The one who fights with you is also Qianyu. The one who drinks with you is also Qianyu, said Qianyu. All right. Night Sorrow thought for a moment and nodded. You're still so shy. Geez, bring more wine. Qianyu looked at Night Sorrow and patted the wine jug. Night Sorrow smiled and took out a few more jugs of wine. He placed them on the table. Princess Ziwei, Princess Rose, let's drink to our heart's content today. You're my brother's brother. If you don't mind, you can call me Sister Ziwei, said Qian Ziwei. Sister Ziwei, Sister Rose. Night Sorrow cupped his hands at the 2 sisters. All right, but we need a greeting gift. I've never experienced this before, so I don't know what to give you, said Qian Ziwei excitedly. There's really no need for that. I'm not calling you sister as a greeting gift, said Night Sorrow. Everyone had a good time drinking this meal, and it lasted for 4 hours before it ended. After resting for a night, Night Sorrow also had to prepare for the first Sage of the 100 Realms ceremony because it would officially begin in 2 days. Quite a few people from the profound heaven world had come, but before Night Sorrow and Qian Ziwei arrived, they were arranged to stay in the courtyard next to theirs. The other guest pavilions were also full. As for the rules of the first Sage of the 100 Realms ceremony, Night Sorrow had learned a bit. Qian Ziwei had told Night Sorrow that the process was a selection, and the finals. There were simply too many people participating, so they had to go through layers and layers of selections until the final 100 people were ranked. What made Night Sorrow a bit hesitant was that the middle stage was similar to the Heaven Sealing Palace. Those who passed would receive a title. However, Night Sorrow already had a title from the 9 Domains world, so what would happen if he also received a title? Since he had already reached this level, Night Sorrow would not back down. He had to enter the Heavenly Tao Will Cave Night Sorrow. If there was no Nihility Will, he would start with the Will of Time. R is the only positive R version, the other JR is the pirate version. Brother, you're not agitated. I'm a little. Qianyu carried the wine jar to Night Sorrow's room. Haha, it's all right. Didn't they say that the top 10 would have a chance? Let's work harder. If we really can't do it, then we're not as good as others. There's nothing to say, said Night Sorrow with a smile. You're right. Let's work harder. If we can't do it, then we have nothing to say. It's our honor to be able to participate in the first Sage of the 100 Realms ceremony after coming to the 9 Firmament world. I wonder how many of the previous titled Sage Kings will participate, said Qianyu as he opened the wine jar. What do you mean by that? Asked Night Sorrow, puzzled. Are you stupid? The first Sage of the 100 Realms ceremony is held once every 3,000 years. The Sage Kings who obtained a ranking last time did not die, nor did they enter the King's realm. Whether they come or not, they're the most shameless. They're all old fellows who have cultivated for thousands of years, said Qianyu. In fact, it wasn't just Qianyu who thought this. Many people were not afraid of their peers. Even the Half-Step King was about the same. However, the Half-Step King who had participated in the first Sage of the 100 Realms ceremony 3,000 years ago was terrifying. After 3,000 years of accumulation, his battle experience and battle strength were not something that newcomers could compare to. Actually, I just found out about this. If you think about it directly, these people have cultivated for a long time, so their strength might be very terrifying. However, if you think about it from another angle, it's not the case, said Night Sorrow as he poured a bowl of wine for Chen Yu. I don't understand. How did it become not the case when it came to you? Asked Chen Yu after drinking a bowl of wine. Experts are experts no matter the time. If they're weak, it's useless no matter how much time you give them. They haven't broken through in 3,000 years and still want to fight for a second opportunity. What's there to be afraid of? They're just a bit more experienced, said Night Sorrow with a smile. That's true. What's there to be afraid of if they haven't broken through in 3,000 years? Chen Yu laughed heartily when he heard Night Sorrow's words. Night Sorrow's words made him feel less apprehensive. Chen Yu's laughter attracted Chen Ziwei, Chen Chengwei, and Night Sorrow's 3 wives to enter Night Sorrow's room. Fortunately, the room was big enough for everyone to sit down and chat. You, what's wrong with you? Asked Chen Ziwei. Sister, you keep telling me to be careful of the titled Sage Kings who participated in the last titled Sage King. But Night Sorrow doesn't think so. He thinks they're just ordinary. Idiots who haven't broken through in 3,000 years have nothing to be afraid of. They're just a bit more experienced. If we meet them, we'll fight. If we can't beat them, just say we can't beat them, said Chen Yu with a smile. Little brother Night Sorrow, you're right. There's no need to be afraid. Otherwise, we'll be at a disadvantage, said Chen Ziwei with a smile. Sister Ziwei, we're the best. We don't need to be afraid of anyone. Night Sorrow nodded at Chen Ziwei and Chen Chengwei. They both wanted to participate. Haha, little brother Night Sorrow, you're right. After the first sage ceremony of the 100 Worlds, bring your family to the Shentian dynasty. I'll cook a feast for you, said Chen Chengwei with a smile. Then Chen Ziwei told Yi Shang to be careful of the Yuan spirit world, which was the archenemy of the profound sky world. The 2 worlds hated each other, and if the 2 worlds met, the other side would definitely target them. While they were chatting, a middle-aged couple arrived at the guest pavilion. The middle-aged man stood there like a sword piercing the sky. The woman in her 30s was also graceful and elegant. The moment the 2 came in, Chen Ziwei brought her sister and brother out of Night Sorrow's room. She bowed to the couple and called them father and mother. Night Sorrow greets the Shentian dynasty lord. Night Sorrow and his 3 wives also cupped their hands to greet the middle-aged couple. He knew that this middle-aged man was the current ruler of the Shentian dynasty. Young and handsome. Ziwei, why don't you introduce them to father? Said the middle-aged man with a smile. Father, he's Night Sorrow. He's Yu's brother. I also recognize him as my brother. These are his wives. Night Sorrow. Sister-in-law, this is my father and mother, said Chen Ziwei. This is a good thing. Night Sorrow, why does this name sound so familiar? Said the middle-aged man as he rubbed his brows. The middle-aged man was an overlord in the profound heaven world. His name was Chen Zhenyu. People called him King Zhenyu. His wife was also very famous. Her name was Yun Yu. Liu King Yun Yu. He has some enmity with the Tiannan dynasty. He massacred 4 of their cities, so he's wanted, said Chen Ziwei. I remember now. It's not a big deal. It's good that young people can cause trouble. I'm just afraid that they can't. If they can, it's a skill, said Chen Zhenyu with a smile. Your Majesty, this way please, said Yi Shang. Zhenyu, this child is so young, said Yun Yu as she sized up Night Sorrow. Speak. Chapter 10:10. Chen Zhenyu walked to the tea table in the courtyard and sat down. He looked at Night Sorrow and said, a half-step king who is more than 100 years old. If I'm not mistaken, you can enter the king's realm at any time, right? Imperial Lord, you can even tell? Night Sorrow asked in surprise. Yes. Because I'm good at perception, I can see through other people's situations. I've never heard of a high-level king with the will of space. Of course, it could be that I'm ignorant, but you're good. There's no doubt about that, Chen Zhenyu said. After staying here for a while and chatting with Night Sorrow and the others, Chen Zhenyu and his wife left. Zhenyu, that young man really has a chance to enter the king's realm, Yunyu asked after leaving the guest house. Yes, he can enter the king's realm at any time. He's also a king with the will of space. The most terrifying thing is that he's the lord of the world. Although he deliberately suppressed it, He has the power of the world origin protecting him. He can't hide it from me, Chen Zhenyu said. Yunyu looked at her husband in shock. She didn't doubt her husband's eyesight because Chen Zhenyu had a secret technique called the Eye of Tao that could see through some illusions and point to the essence. The Tiannan dynasty has kicked an iron plate this time. The Tianxian world will be in big trouble in the future. When he enters the king's realm, the ordinary first or second level kings will be bullied. He can control the will of space and must be good at speed. Yunyu, you know what this means, Chen Zhenyu said with a smile. Chen Zhenyu was also disgusted with the current Tiannan dynasty because they were unscrupulous. It was a completely different concept from when Shang-Xi was the imperial lord. If he becomes the king of space, his speed will be terrifying. He can run away after killing. Shang Tianfeng can't do anything. If his daughter and son are with him, there may be more trouble, but it may be a good thing. After all, such a person has great luck, Yunyu said. Don't interfere with the children's affairs. They also need friends, Chen Zhenyu said. According to what you said, he is about to enter the king realm. His will is at least 90%. Normal half-step kings are not his match. He has hope of becoming the first sage of the 100 realms. Yunyu thought of another problem. Let's wait and see. The appearance of a century-old half-step king is bound to shock some people, including the sovereigns. The great ancestor will be very happy, Chen Zhenyu said with a smile. Zhenyu, you should greet the great ancestor. If such a talent is easily snatched away by other sovereigns, it will be a loss for the profound heaven world, Yunyu reminded Chen Zhenyu. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, it was time for the grand ceremony of the first saint of the 100 realms to begin. Knight Sorrow brought his parents out of the time and space treasure pagoda. He brought his people and followed Chen Ziwei to Nine Cloud Plaza. Imposing manner. Knight Sorrow felt that everything in the Nine Heavens world was imposing. He had never seen such a large plaza with a diameter of hundreds of miles. On one side of the plaza was a towering tower. It was the Nine Heavens Pagoda. There were more than a dozen people sitting in the main seats in front of the Nine Heavens Pagoda. Knight Sorrow knew that they were all sovereigns, the leaders of their respective worlds. Someone brought Chen Ziwei and Knight Sorrow to the area of the profound heaven world. Chen Zhenyu and Yunyu sat in the front. There were also some other people, including the people of the Tiannan dynasty. Knight Sorrow saw his enemy, Shang Jingchun. He was behind the people of the Tiannan dynasty. He was also a member of the ceremony. After all, he was also a peak venerable. Take a seat. There are some things that can be solved in the profound heaven world. Chen Zhenyu nodded to Knight Sorrow. Knight Sorrow brought his people to the seats behind Chen Zhenyu and Yunyu. Don't worry about it. We can talk about it when we get back. Chen Ziwei pulled Knight Sorrow and led him to their seats. Yi Wuyo, Yu Qing, and the others sat behind Knight Sorrow. I don't care. I'm not here to seek revenge. I'm here to participate in the first saint ceremony of the 100 worlds. Knight Sorrow smiled and looked around. He found that there were many factions and many people participating. Knight Sorrow didn't know who was participating, but he felt that there were at least a few thousand people because there were many peak saint kings and half-step king saints in each faction. Knight Sorrow also saw Luo Qisha and the others. Chen Bai, Qing Yin, and He Feng were all there. Seeing Knight Sorrow, Luo Qisha and the others smiled and nodded. Knight Sorrow also cupped his hands in return. At this time, a middle-aged man in a brocade robe sitting in the middle of the main seat stood up. Very good. Many talents have come to the first saint ceremony of the 100 worlds this time. The first saint ceremony of the 100 worlds is a chance for you to stand out and fight for your own opportunities. The brocade-robed elder then explained the ceremony's rewards and rules. In the 100 World Saint King ceremony, the top 100 would be rewarded. The top 10 would be rewarded with Saint King weapons, Saint King pills, and the chance to cultivate in the will of heaven and earth's cave. Different rankings would give different amounts of time to cultivate in the will of heaven and earth's cave. The first place would have 100 years, the second place would have 90 years, and so on. The 10th place would have 10 years. Y updated the fastest. Go. Those who were not in the top 10 would not have the chance to cultivate in the will of heaven and earth's cave. They would only be rewarded with resources. There were not many restrictions in the rules. They were not allowed to use poison or soul doppelgangers. However, they could use their own poison techniques. After entering the great competition, life and death would be determined. The first round would be the preliminaries. All the participants would be eliminated. No matter how many people there were, only 1,000 people would be left in the first round. 1,000 peak saint kings and half-step king realm cultivators. This was a huge number. There had not been a saint king in the 9 regions world for 10,000 years. However, this was a big world, a mature world. The mysterious sky world was 1,000 times the size of the 9 regions world. The sky dome world was much bigger than the mysterious sky world. There were many worlds like the mysterious sky world and the sky dome world around the 9 heavens world. Therefore, the number of peak saint kings and half-step king realm cultivators who came to participate in the first saint ceremony of the 100 worlds far exceeded the number of 1,000. The rules of the preliminaries were simple and violent. Everyone would go to the big arena in the middle of the square. If they were killed, they would be disqualified. In the end, only 1,000 people would be left in the arena. The preliminaries would be over. Small teams are at a disadvantage. Our mysterious sky world is not as good as some other worlds. Look at the 9 heavens worlds camp. How many peak saints and half-step king realm cultivators are there? Chen Chongwei muttered. There is no absolute fairness in the world. This round is not a test of fighting ability. It is a test of survival ability. It is enough as long as you can survive, Night Sorrow said. Brother Night Sorrow, we have a defensive matrix. Will you be okay? Chen Chongwei asked Night Sorrow. If I can't survive the preliminaries, then what's the point of talking about the following battles? Have some confidence in me, Night Sorrow said with a smile. That's true. Don't be too far away from us. This is a battle of life and death, Chen Chongwei reminded Night Sorrow. Speak. Second watch. Chapter 10-11. After speaking, Night Sorrow took out a storage ring and put it on. He took off his original storage ring, and his clone entered the space-time pagoda with the storage ring. His clone entered the space-time pagoda, but he left the dragon cauldron behind. Since he was here, Night Sorrow would fight with all his might. Night Sorrow, this is not the time to fight. Preserving your strength is the right thing to do, Wu Lingfei said. Not necessarily. There are no soft persimmons here. Whoever attacks me, I will kill them. Let me see how many people are not afraid of death, Night Sorrow said as he let out a sigh. Deterrence is also a method, Yi Wuyo nodded. After that, the participants hung their number plates on their waists and started walking towards the arena. Night Sorrow's number plate was 13. When Chen Ziwei came back from the registration and gave Night Sorrow his number plate, Night Sorrow smiled because it was the same as his ranking in the Medicine Valley. Night Sorrow, Chen Ziwei, and the other people from the Tianxian world walked together to one side of the arena. This is the time to show the strength of a team. No matter how big the conflict is in the Tianxian world, we have to be united against the outside world, Chen Ziwei said. Some people nodded, while others did not say anything. However, no one objected. Since Princess Ziwei has spoken, I think no one will object. I, Shang Zhengxian, have no objections, the middle-aged man standing beside Shang Zhengxian said. He was the crown prince of the Tiannan dynasty and had a cultivation level that was half a king. His status in the Tiannan dynasty was not something Shang Zhengxian could compare to. That's good. Chen Ziwei nodded. You are Night Sorrow. I hope you can be lucky and survive the selection. If we meet at any other time, I, Shang Zhengxian, will definitely kill you. Shang Zhengxian had already recognized Night Sorrow. After all, he was a wanted criminal in the Tiannan dynasty. He had some influence. Shameless boasting, Yishan replied with 4 words. You really know how to brag, Chen Yu said after glancing at Shang Zhengxian. Chen Yu understood Night Sorrow's strength. He, a half-step king, had been abused before. Chen Bai had also been abused before. In addition, Chen Ziwei and Chen Chongwei had also expressed that they were not Night Sorrow's match. Therefore, when he heard Shang Zhengshuan's words, he was very unhappy. Glancing at Chen Yu, Shang Zhengxian did not say anything. He could yell at Night Sorrow, but not Chen Yu. To put it bluntly, in the profound heaven world, the Sky South Empire did not dare to provoke the Shen-Tian Empire. They were not on the same level. The Shen-Tian Empire had a sovereign, but the Sky South Empire did not. Night Sorrow smiled, looking down on people like Shang Zhengxian who bullied the weak and feared the strong. Qianyu scolded him and didn't even dare to fart. Following which, a host walked to the high platform at the side of the arena. He held 2 flags in his hands. The green flag was for battle, and the red flag was for stop. Knight Sorrow held the reincarnation spear in his hand because the next battle would be a desperate one. It was a high-level life and death battle. There were no weaklings here. If one's strength was not enough, then they would be killed. Following the wave of the man's flag on the high platform, the battle on the arena began. Teams began to fight against each other. At this time, no one would be lenient. Teams began to kill each other. Of course, there were also individuals who flew alone. Those were rogue cultivators who had no faction and were strong. Just as Knight Sorrow was observing the battlefield, a team charged towards the Profound Heaven World's camp. "It's the bastards from the Yuan Spirit World," Chen Ziwei reminded Knight Sorrow. "And you guys be careful too." Knight Sorrow waved his reincarnation spear and charged towards the people from the Yuan Spirit World. At this time he had to kill. If he did not kill others, others would kill him. In order to avoid exhaustion, Knight Sorrow directly used the Will of Space to increase his speed and poured the power of Desolates into the reincarnation spear. He directly used his strongest state to fight. The spatial attribute protective barrier was strengthened by 90% of the Will of Space. Knight Sorrow's speed was extremely fast. He charged into the Yuan Spirit World's camp and started to kill. At this time, Wu Lingfei and the others were filled with worry. The Yuan Spirit World was a team with dozens of people. Knight Sorrow charged in alone. This kid has guts, but a brainless person is destined to not live long. An old man with a cold expression sitting on the main seat said. He was the leader of the Yuan Spirit World, the Yuan Spirit Sovereign. "That might not be the case. Maybe he is a tiger in a flock of sheep," another old man wearing a brocade robe said. He was the great ancestor of Qianyu, the Profound Heaven Sovereign of the Profound Heaven World. In the cultivation world, cultivators had a long lifespan. A high-level cultivator might have many generations of descendants living at the same time. Therefore, addressing them was a problem. Under normal circumstances, those with a difference of more than 4 generations would be addressed as great ancestor. "You two are still the same. But Yuan Spirit, it is not appropriate for you to curse a young man," the old man sitting in the middle said. His gaze was also on Knight Sorrow. He was the host this time, the sovereign of the 9th heaven sect of the 9 heavens realm. Sovereign Yuan Spirit did not speak. He and the sovereign of the Profound Heaven Sovereign were opponents. He could speak against each other, but he could not offend either of them. Knight Sorrow displayed his speed to the extreme. When he moved, the opponent's attacks all missed. His Sky Wasteland killing spear was strengthened by the Will of Space and the attack seemed to be shortened. The moment the spear was shot, no Saint King could block it. After killing the opponent, Little Kong would use his energy to collect the spoils. The Saint Kings were slaughtered. The Half-Step King could not withstand it. He could dodge 2 spears, but he could not defend against the third. Knight Sorrow's speed was strengthened by the Will of Space, and the rule of time was accelerated by the time. They both assisted the attack speed. The Half-Step King was also killed. When Knight Sorrow killed the 6th person, the people of the Yuan Spirit World knew that they had encountered a tough opponent. So they began to besiege Knight Sorrow. Besieging is effective. Then there is not much meaning for the masters to be respected. No one needs to cultivate. Just call on your friends. Seeing Knight Sorrow killing everywhere, the sovereign of the Profound Heaven Sovereign was very happy. He directly threw a knife to the sovereign of the Profound Heaven Sovereign. The sovereign of the Profound Heaven Sovereign had been watching Knight Sorrow's battle. At this time, Knight Sorrow's performance was too dazzling. He was too strong, so he did not defend. When the speed reached a certain level, there was no need to defend. In fact, as the sovereign of the Profound Heaven Sovereign said, besieging was ineffective against Knight Sorrow. Knight Sorrow's protective shield was constantly being cut. He had been fighting outside the encirclement. It could also be said that there was no encirclement. Besieging was ineffective against Knight Sorrow. Knight Sorrow killed another 2 opponents. The people of the Yuan Spirit World retreated. Because the Profound Heaven World camp was not easy to kill, they could only change their position. No one was brainless. If they fought recklessly and lost their strength, they would not be able to withstand the attacks of the other teams. 4 up, the Yuan spirit world retreated. Night Sorrow returned to the profound heaven world camp. Haha, this is domineering. Unlike some people who only know how to talk and hide at the crucial moment. Chen Yu laughed. Said. Chapter 10-12. Shang Zhengxian looked at Chen Yu angrily, but he didn't say anything. If he said anything, it wouldn't end well for him. Chen Ziwei and her brother were definitely more powerful than him. If they fought, he would be at a disadvantage. The other reason Shang Zhengxian didn't attack was that Night Sorrow was standing next to Chen Ziwei and her brother. If he had a conflict with Chen Ziwei and the others, Night Sorrow would definitely attack. At that moment, Night Sorrow was watching Shang Zhengshuan's reaction. If Shang Zhengxian exploded, he would immediately attack. Haha, what a young half-step king. His battle strength is really fierce, not bad, said Sovereign Zishao. His battle strength is not bad, said another man wearing a white robe. He had black hair and a white beard. Monarch No Beginning, do you also like this young man? Monarch Zishao asked Monarch No Beginning, who had black hair and a white beard. Based on his appearance, he seems to be the little fellow who defeated my sixth disciple in the boundless territory, said Sovereign No Beginning. There were a few sovereigns in the surrounding 100 worlds of the Nine Clouds world, but in terms of prestige, Sovereign No Beginning was the highest. So my disciple went to the boundless territory and didn't get anything because of him, said a green-haired man. Yao Yue, what do you mean by that? Could it be that your disciple is weak and you want to vent your anger on someone else? Asked Sovereign Shen Tian. He could hear that the green-haired man's tone wasn't very good. This has something to do with you, Shen Tian, said Sovereign Shen Tian. His eyes were like black holes. He comes from the profound sky world. What do you think? Sovereign Shen Tian's energy fluctuated. Yao Yue, don't get involved in the affairs of the younger generation. You can afford to lose face like this. My disciple also lost. So what if he lost? Said Sovereign No Beginning. It's not that I can't, but I must have the 10,000 life limitless fruit. He has to hand it over, said Sovereign Shen Tian. Haha, Moon Demon, you're too arrogant. If you want it, then go ahead. Once the selection is over, we'll cheer everyone up and see if you have the ability to get the limitless longevity fruit. Black Heaven Sovereign was so angry that he laughed. He was already infuriated by Moon Demon Sovereign's arrogance. Yao Yu, I don't care how arrogant you usually are, but in the first saint ceremony of the 100 worlds, in the 9 heavens realm, you should behave yourself, said Yao Yu. Said Sovereign Zishao coldly. He wasn't happy either. If Yao Yu made a scene, it meant that he wasn't giving him any face. Moon Demon Monarch shook his green robe and looked at Black Heaven Monarch without saying anything. At this time, the preliminaries in the arena had reached a climax once again. There were too many people, and it was a mess when they started fighting. Under normal circumstances, no one would attack the Shen Celestial Realm camp. But now, they were all in a frenzy and attacked everyone they saw. Night Sorrow could only wield his spear and fight again. Chen Ziwei and the other two siblings started killing behind Night Sorrow. With Night Sorrow's strong attacks, Chen Ziwei and Chen Chengwei's defense, Chen Yu support Night Sorrow, and the rest of the Shen Tian Imperial Court's people covering the back, everyone was safe. But the rest of the Shen Tian Imperial Court's people were not. When the battle started, some people were injured, pushed back, and some were killed. The 9 region Origin Bead and Shao Kong were not idle either. They collected the storage rings and weapons of those who died in battle. The people in the arena were all peak Saint Kings and half-step King Kings. They had accumulated a lot of resources in their lives. In the beginning, Night Sorrow did not know how many people he had killed. He had passed through the chaotic area and arrived at the 9 Heavens Tower. After all, some people did not dare to fight in front of the sovereigns. They were afraid. After stabilizing himself, Night Sorrow cupped his hands to the dozen or so sovereigns in the main seats. He then turned to face the arena. If anyone came to attack him, he would kill them. As Night Sorrow was on guard, the MC on the stage waved a red flag. Next, someone beside the main seat struck a large gong. The sound woke up the participants who were still fighting. All right, the remaining 1,000 people continue to compete. Register your identity plates and go rest, the MC called out. After the battle ended, Night Sorrow put away his reincarnation spear. He shook his robes and became a calm and steady young man again. Haha, this young man is good. I like him, a white-robed woman said with a smile. Seven Reign Sovereign, don't try to poach him in front of me, the Xiantian Imperial Court Sovereign said helplessly. Everyone likes talents. Everyone has to rely on their own abilities. Brother, no beginning, don't you think so? The white-robed Seven Reign Sovereign said with a smile. How should I say this? I won't comment. The beginning sovereign shook his head. After registering their identity plates, Knight Sorrow and the others returned to the Xian Celestial Realm seats. However, along the way, Shang Xian looked at Knight Sorrow with a murderous gaze. After Knight Sorrow's group of 4 led the Xiantian Imperial Court's people out, the others in the Xian Celestial Realm were not so lucky. Shang Xian and Yu Wenhan were not chased off, but Shang Jingchun and 2 other participants from the Tiannan Imperial Court were beaten off. Shang Jingchun was even seriously injured. Well done. Seeing Knight Sorrow return, Chen Zhenyu nodded at Knight Sorrow. Yunyu also gave Knight Sorrow a thumbs up because Knight Sorrow could speak. Wu Lingfei knew Knight Sorrow's strength, so she wasn't worried. However, she was worried that Knight Sorrow lacked battle experience and would suffer losses. Yi Shang nodded. Although he was very confident in himself, he didn't underestimate his opponents at all. In Wu Lingfei's words, some of these people had lived for countless years. It was certain that they had trump cards. Brother Knight Sorrow, don't hesitate when you go on stage. Victory is your only hope, Chen Ziwei said to Knight Sorrow. Speak. Chapter 4. Chapter 10-13. I'm not a rookie, so don't worry. Knight Sorrow smiled. He knew they were all worried about him. Yes. If you're lucky, you'll advance after 3 rounds. If you're unlucky, you'll have to fight again, said Chen Qiuwei. Knight Sorrow nodded. 100 people would be left. 500 would be eliminated in the first round, 250 would be eliminated in the second round, and 125 would be left in the third round. 50 of them would have to fight again to advance to the 4th round. Luck was more important at this time because the remaining people would all be experts. If you fought another round, you might be eliminated and lose your opportunity. After resting for 4 hours, the middle-aged man who had been standing on the high platform stood in front of the arena. Next will be the 2-on-1 battles. The winner will advance to the next round, and the loser will be eliminated. I'll first tell you the rules. No poison, soul avatars, or contract beasts are allowed. Anyone who violates this will be killed, announced the man. Normally, those who violated the rules would be eliminated. But this was the first sage's assembly. If you dare to violate the rules, you would be killed. Why, that's Yu Qiong King, Purple Firmament's eldest disciple. He's a high-level king, said Chen Zhenyu to Chen Ziwei and the others. Seeing that everyone understood, King Yu Qiong added another rule. If they couldn't decide a winner within an hour, both of them would be eliminated. Knight Sorrow thought about it and understood. If 2 people were familiar with each other, it would be impossible to stall for time and get a draw. Knight Sorrow had thought that it would be just 2 people fighting in the arena. But that wasn't the case. There were many groups fighting at the same time. Otherwise, it would take a long time for 1,000 people to fight. The arena was rather big. In front of the main seat, someone had carved out 10 smaller arenas. As long as one was knocked out of the arena, it would be considered a loss. Following that, Sovereign King Yu Qiong took out a special raw stone from the hands of an attendant. It was a bamboo pot that could not be checked by soul power. Reaching out with his right hand, he sucked out 2 numbers and read them out. After the numbers were announced, 2 people walked onto the stage. Yu Qiong's king stretched out his arm and pointed at the first small arena. At this time, there was a king standing guard in front of each small arena. He was also a referee. 20 people were fighting at the same time, and the battle scene was very intense. Knight Sorrow saw a ruthless person. It was a black-clothed old man, and he used a saber. The saber aura was very fierce, and it only took a moment for him to kill his opponent. Black Demon Sage King, ranked 5th in the first sage ceremony of the 100 Realms 3,000 years ago. Chen Ziwei took out a small booklet and gave it to Knight Sorrow. She came from a monarch force, so she had a lot of information. The booklet contained the records of the last first saint of 100 worlds. Knight Sorrow took a look and wrote it down. Then, he gave the little booklet to Qian Ziwei. His soul power was strong, so it was easy for him to write things down. Not only is this guy shameless, but he's also very cruel, Qian Yu said as he watched Black Fiend Saint walk down the arena. Yes, he's very murderous. But people who kill will be killed eventually, Knight Sorrow said. No matter what, we have to be careful. They don't have much time left, so they're crazier. Their minds are even twisted, Qian Ziwei reminded her sister and brother, as well as Knight Sorrow. Yi Shang nodded. He was not afraid at all. He had comprehended 90% of the will of space. As long as it was not a sovereign king, he did not believe that any saint king or half-step sovereign king would be able to defeat him in an all-out battle. Chapter 10:14. After forcing his opponent to kneel on the ground, Knight Sorrow hesitated and retreated. Now that he had won, he really did not want to kill all of them. Look at the original chapter. Section 1. After retreating a few steps, Knight Sorrow cupped his hands towards Yu Qiong King. At this time, the peak stage Saint King who was originally kneeling on the ground switched to his left hand and jumped up, slashing towards the back of his head. If you must die, then I'll fulfill your wish. Yi Shang roared and turned around. The reincarnation spear suddenly pierced out. This spear seemed to have passed through space and pierced the space between the peak Saint King's eyebrows, piercing through his head and spirit sea. With a shake of his arm, Knight Sorrow retrieved his spear. With a twist of his left hand, he took the peak stage Saint King's blade and storage ring. Number 13. You won. It's good to be benevolent, but it's not suitable here, Yu Qiong King said to Knight Sorrow. Knight Sorrow understands. You give others a chance, but they might not appreciate it. Knight Sorrow sighed and returned to his seat. Little brother Knight Sorrow, didn't I tell you not to hold back? You were persistent, but they are all crazy. They don't have any sense of shame, Qian Ziwei said to Knight Sorrow. I feel that everyone should not only live for themselves, but also for their parents, wives, and children. Living is a complete family, so I don't want to destroy others. But in fact, I took it for granted. Knight Sorrow laughed at himself, because reality had given him a hard slap in the face. The battle continued. Knight Sorrow did not have anything to do in the first round. He did not consume much energy, he just watched others fight. Qian Ziwei, Qian Qiongwei, and Qian Yu went up one after another. Qian Ziwei and Qian Yu both won easily, but Qian Qiongwei met a strong opponent. She won the battle, but it was very difficult. 13. Have you thought it through? You have a benevolent heart, but you can't do it here. People are being rude to you. You can't let anything happen to you. You've affected too many people's hearts, Aoi said. I understand. 6th senior sister. Let's kill. If we're going to kill, let's kill to our heart's content. Knight Sorrow pulled out a wine jug and took a swig. His aura changed. Seeing the change in Knight Sorrow's aura, Aoi and the others felt at ease. The elimination round was relatively slow. After all, 500 groups of people needed a long time to fight. In the evening, the 500th round of battles finally ended. However, at this time, Zi Shao King stood up and said, although there is still some time today, everyone is very nervous on the first day. That's all for today. Go back and prepare for the battles tomorrow. Qian Zhenyu, Yun Yu, and the other king of the Celestial Realm led the participants and spectators of the Celestial Realm back to the guest house. Qian Zhenyu and Yun Yu chatted with Knight Sorrow for a while. They didn't mention today's battles. They just chatted casually. They knew that Knight Sorrow already had a summary of today's battles, so there was no need to talk about it. That would only put pressure on Knight Sorrow. At this time, Shen Tian King and No Beginning King came to the guest house. Behind No Beginning King were Qing Yin, Chen Bai, and Hei Feng. Qian Zhenyu and Yun Yu stood up and cupped their hands. Knight Sorrow and the others also stood up. Great Ancestor, why are you here? Qian Zhenyu asked. No Beginning King wanted to come and take a look, so I came with him, Shen Tian King said. Your Knight Sorrow. Qing Yin is my disciple. You helped her solve her lifespan problem. I'm very grateful, No Beginning King said. Lord Monarch, you're too polite. Knight Sorrow cupped his hands and said. Haha, not bad. Okay, you know my disciple. You can chat. If you have time, you can come to Endless Mountain. No Beginning King nodded at Night Sorrow and then left the guest house with Shintian King. It's very stressful, Zhu Juyun said. How can it not be stressful? He's a monarch, standing at the peak of the king realm. He's the one who sets the rules. Night Sorrow looked at his 3 wives and said. After chatting for a while, Night Sorrow went to meditate and rest. He had some things to digest today because a few experts had appeared. Black Fury Holy King was very strong, and Slaughter Holy King was even stronger. Although they had the title of Holy King, the Half-Step King should be the strongest among the Half-Step King realm. Yi Shang had a rough estimation in his heart. 3,000 years ago, they were able to get into the top 10 of the first Saint of the 100 Realms. At that time, they should be at the pinnacle of cultivators below the Sovereign King realm. Although Yi Shang felt that their achievements would not be great and their comprehension was average, they were still strong. After resting for a night, Night Sorrow washed up. When he went to the courtyard, Yu Qing put on Night Moon's king battle suit for Night Sorrow. You have to be careful today. Don't be like yesterday. Mother, don't worry. I won't be soft today. Since I've chosen this path, I can only go down it, Night Sorrow said. Then, under the lead of Qian Zhenyu, Yun Yu, and another king, the participants of the Xian Celestial Realm came to the square. There were only 500 people fighting today. After 2 fights, there were only a little more than 100 people left. The remaining 50 people would fight to determine the top 100. In other words, the top 100 would be decided after 3 rounds at most. As for the ranking of the last 100 people, it was a little more complicated. First, they would enter the Zhouxiao Tower to see who had the highest height. At the same time they would get a title. However, this ranking was not the final ranking. It was just a temporary ranking. After the ranking of the tower was out, those with a lower ranking could challenge if they were not convinced. Of course, they couldn't challenge whoever they wanted. Everyone had 10 chances to challenge. Each time, they couldn't exceed the top 10 of their own ranking. Also, there couldn't be 2 challenges. Night Sorrow felt that this method was very reasonable. This competition was based on real strength. There would be no luck or coincidence. Whoever was better would go up. After drawing lots, the battle started again. In the second call, it was Night Sorrow's turn. His opponent was an old man who was also a half-step king. Do you admit defeat? Once the battle starts, it will only be life and death, Night Sorrow asked as he waved his reincarnation spear. The old man didn't say anything and directly attacked with his saber. Night Sorrow waved his spear and began to fight. With the support of Night Sorrow's 90% willpower, the old man was no match for him. Night Sorrow killed him with his 7th spear strike. Night Sorrow cupped his hands to Yu Qiong and King before returning to his seat. Not bad. You can't blame anyone for seeking death, Chen Ziwei said with a smile. Night Sorrow, if you're lucky, you'll advance after another battle, said Qian Yu. You have to be careful. Night Sorrow reminded him because the remaining cultivators were all experts. It wasn't easy to win every battle. Qian Yu nodded. He knew that Night Sorrow had won easily. That was because Night Sorrow was strong. If they were on the same level, the battle wouldn't end so quickly. Next was Chen Ziwei's turn. Her opponent was very strong. He was a half-step king who had grasped the will of wind. He relied on his speed to tangle with Chen Ziwei. Speak. Chapter 10-15. Just as Yi Shang and the others were getting anxious, the situation changed. Chen Ziwei's mysterious heaven sword art suddenly changed direction. Her sword aura became sharp and powerful. Waves of sword energy flew through the air, creating a sharp whistling sound. After changing her sword technique, Chen Ziwei's body shined with a black light. Her speed also increased. Her opponent no longer had an advantage in speed. He was suppressed by Chen Ziwei, and after one of his arms was chopped off, he shouted loudly and admitted defeat. Darkness-type sword intent. Night Sorrow muttered. He hadn't expected Chen Ziwei to have 2 types of sword intent. Normally, she only used the lightning-type sword intent. She had never used the darkness-type sword intent. After winning, Chen Ziwei returned to her seat. Big sister, are you feeling unwell? Asked Chen Ziwei worriedly. I'm fine. I'm fine. Chen Ziwei shook her head.
What's going on?
Night Sorrow could see that Chen Ziwei's condition wasn't very good. Darkness-type sword intent is harmful to my big sister's body, so she usually doesn't use it in battle, said Chen Ziwei. Looking at Chen Ziwei, Night Sorrow took out a few drops of life elixir and gave it to her. This is good for your body. Try it. Chen Ziwei took a drop of the life elixir and began to recover. An hour later, Chen Ziwei was back to peak condition. Your elixir is pretty good. Thank you, said Chen Ziwei as she stretched. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. As long as it doesn't affect the next battle. Big Sister Ziwei. I'm sorry I couldn't help you, said Night Sorrow. Because Chen Ziwei had been defeated, her condition hadn't been very good. She couldn't hold on against a strong opponent. Chen Yu had passed, but it hadn't been easy. Night Sorrow, the next round won't be easy, said Chen Yu as he rubbed his forehead. He didn't have much confidence. Yes, there are no weak opponents. Every round won't be easy, said Chen Ziwei. After the first round, only half of the 500 people had passed. King Yu Qiong told everyone to rest. The second round would begin in 2 hours. After resting for 2 hours, the second round began. Those who advanced to the next round had a chance to enter the top 100 and obtain a reward. After the second round began, Night Sorrow waited quietly, but it was still not his turn to fight. Chen Ziwei advanced, and so did Shang Zhengxian. However, Chen Yu failed. It wasn't because he wasn't strong, but because he was unlucky enough to meet Qing Yin. Qing Yin was the third disciple of No Beginning Sovereign. Although she was not the king, she was the top of the half-step king's attention. Chen Yu was naturally no match for her. The battles progressed one by one. Night Sorrow was the last to go up. He had seen his opponent before. It was Yu Wuhan from the Demon Moon Realm. Do you admit defeat? Yi Shang asked after he stepped onto the stage with the reincarnation spear in hand. Yi Shang would always ask this question before every battle because once the battle began, he wouldn't hold back and would kill his opponent. You think too much. Last time, because Chen Bai and Hei Feng were in the way, you were able to take the limitless longevity fruit. Today Yu Wuhan, will kill you and take back what belongs to me. After speaking, Yu Wuhan's body flashed as he charged at Night Sorrow. Then let's see what you're capable of. Night Sorrow did not move. He unsheathed his reincarnation spear and the tip of the spear collided with Yu Wuhan's sword. Following a crisp sound, Yu Wuhan was pushed back by Night Sorrow's spear. However, the robe on Night Sorrow's right arm was constantly trembling. That was the energy transmitted by the reincarnation spear. Night Sorrow's right arm shook and dispelled Yu Wuhan's soft and domineering energy. Following which, he used his innate bloodline energy to cut through the protective air barrier and caught up to Yu Wuhan. The reincarnation spear rapidly attacked. Yu Wuhan's body floated back and at the same time, she used her sword to block Night Sorrow's reincarnation spear attack. In fact, Yu Wuhan's sword attack was very fast. However, Night Sorrow's will of space accelerated even faster. Before Yu Wuhan could fully exert her strength, Night Sorrow's reincarnation spear attack arrived. This kind of situation made Yu Wuhan very passive. She was unable to fully exert her strength and her energy was unable to fully burst forth. How could she be compared to Night Sorrow, who had a strong body? After suppressing Yu Wuhan, Night Sorrow's spear technique changed. He changed from the power of Desolates to the Void True Chi and directly executed the Void Extreme Kill. As Night Sorrow's reincarnation spear burst forth with a purple halo, the long sword in Yu Wuhan's hand was directly annihilated from the tip. As Night Sorrow's reincarnation spear pierced forward, the long sword in Yu Wuhan's hand was instantly destroyed. Yu Wuhan's expression changed when the Saint King longsword in her hand was destroyed. She quickly retreated. However, Night Sorrow's will of space and the law of Desolates were used at the same time. His speed reached an extreme. As he advanced, Night Sorrow's left hand spun and energy burst forth to restrain Yu Wuhan. Following which, the reincarnation spear directly pierced Yu Wuhan's chest. Just as Night Sorrow's energy burst forth and was about to destroy Yu Wuhan, he suddenly couldn't move. His entire body was suppressed by the powerful will of the world. He couldn't move at all and couldn't circulate his energy. At this time, a long sword appeared in Yu Wuhan's hand and directly pierced towards Night Sorrow's chest.
Yu Wuhan, how dare you?
The Purple Firmament Sovereign, who had been sitting in the main seat, stood up and directly sent a palm strike towards Yu Wuhan.
You're courting death.
The Black Heaven Sovereign also stood up, but he didn't attack. If the Purple Firmament Sovereign attacked, it would be 2 against 1. His reputation wouldn't be good. The Black Heaven Sovereign waved his hand to resolve the suppression of Night Sorrow by Yu Wuhan's long sword. At the same time, Yu Wuhan's long sword stabbed towards Night Sorrow's chest. At this time, everyone who cared about Night Sorrow stood up. They all knew that Night Sorrow had been attacked by Yu Wuhan. Yu Wuhan's attack was very fast. She directly stabbed Night Sorrow's chest 9 times in a row. Night Sorrow's body was sent flying. His robes were torn apart, but there was no blood on Night Sorrow's body. Under his torn robes, there were only a few white marks on his body. He waved his spear and forced Yu Wuhan back.
Night Sorrow waved his left hand and a robe appeared on his body.
Then he put on his robes. The monarchs attacked me. Very good. Today there are no rules. Dang. Night Sorrow's body flickered as he attacked Yu Wuhan. Yu Wuhan's expression changed. She didn't understand why she hadn't killed Night Sorrow a moment before. Night Sorrow was still at the peak of his strength. How could she fight against him? She could only dodge quickly. Being killed by Night Sorrow would only be a matter of time. At that moment, a great battle was going on in the sky. The Purple Firmament Sovereign and the Moon Demon King were still fighting, but the Purple Firmament Sovereign was suppressing the Moon Demon King.
How dare you?
What do you think the continent of the 9 clouds is? At that moment, an old man in cyan robes appeared out of nowhere. Let's go! Shouted the Moon Demon King. He waved his sleeve and sent Night Sorrow flying. Then, he wrapped Yu Wuhan in his energy and ran away. Yu Wuhan, you fought against my fellow disciple today. I won't bully you. But remember, if you dare come to the continent of the 9 clouds again, I'll kill you, said the old man in cyan robes. Speak. Chapter 10:16. The old man was wearing a green robe with a special pattern. His hair, eyebrows and beard were all white, but he didn't look old at all. Greetings, Monarch Shen Xiao. At this time, all the sovereigns cupped their hands towards the old man. What have you done?
That young man is fine, but if something had happened, how would we explain to the world that the first sacred ceremony of the 100 worlds can still be held in the future?
The old man roared at the group of sovereigns. Senior brother, it's my fault. Monarch Zi Xiao bowed to the old man. Humph, after so many years, you still haven't matured. Young man, come here. Are you okay? The old man waved at Night Sorrow. Thank you for your concern, Monarch. Night Sorrow is fine. Night Sorrow cupped his hands towards the old man. Brat, you sure are ruthless. Even though it was an emergency and I couldn't use my full strength, I still couldn't break through your physical body's defense. You will continue to get stronger. Zi Xiao, watch carefully. If anything goes wrong again, I will teach you a lesson. The green-robed elder's body flashed twice and disappeared. Monarch King, I won this round, right? Night Sorrow looked at King Yu Qiong and asked. Naturally you won. You can go rest. Monarch Yu Qiong was stunned for a moment before nodding. He didn't expect this to happen. Night Sorrow cupped his hands towards the monarch and returned to his seat. 13, are you okay? Seeing Night Sorrow return, Aoi held Night Sorrow's hand and asked. I'm fine. I just didn't expect to be tricked by the monarchs. Night Sorrow looked at the retreating Moon Demon World people. Night Sorrow, I want to ask, are you a human or some kind of gifted beast? Don't worry, no matter what race you are, we're brothers. Chen Yu looked at Night Sorrow and asked. What nonsense are you talking about? My parents are still here. Night Sorrow glared at Chen Yu. Uncle, Auntie, don't mind me. I don't know how to talk. Chen Yu apologized to Yi Wuyo and Yu Qing. It's fine. You're just being honest, Yi Wuyo said. After Night Sorrow rested for 2 hours, the 50 people were selected to fight. After eliminating 25 people, the remaining people would enter the top 100 of the first saints of the 100 worlds. However, Night Sorrow's luck wasn't bad. He didn't get picked this time, which meant that he would enter the top 100 for sure. Something unexpected happened today. The challenge of the 9 Heavens Tower will be set for tomorrow, Sovereign Zi Xiao said. The main thing was that time didn't allow for it. The 25 people who advanced later also needed to rest before fighting again. Yi Shang and the others returned to the guest house. Your Majesty, that cyan-robed elder is very powerful, Yi Shang said to Qian Zhenyu after they entered the guest tower. Yes, he's the most virtuous and bad-tempered monarch of the 100 worlds. If there's a conflict between monarchs, he'll be the one to resolve it. No one won't give him face. The main thing is that he's strong. In the past, when the Swift Gale monarch messed around and didn't follow the rules, he killed him, said Qian Zhenyu. He's bad-tempered, but he's reasonable. He hates people who don't follow the rules. This time, the Moon Demon monarch caused a big mess, said Yunyu. Is he retarded? He knows the Divine Knight monarch's temper isn't good, but he still went looking for trouble, said Qian Ziwei. Normally, the Divine Knight monarch doesn't show his face. Who knew that the Moon Demon monarch would suddenly appear? The Moon Demon monarch is unlucky, said Qian Zhenyu. But Knight Sorrow might be held a grudge against him. He's a potential threat, said Qian Yu. The moon-worshipping clansmen of the Moon Demon world are eccentric. They're really hard to deal with. You should be careful in the future, reminded Yunyu to Knight Sorrow. Then Knight Sorrow returned to his room. Today's battle had shocked him greatly. A battle between monarchs was too terrifying. When he had fought with Yu Wuhan, the shock waves from the battle between the Purple Firmament monarch and the Invitation monarch had greatly suppressed him. Tomorrow is the ranking battle. Today's matter is over. However, this kind of thing can happen again. We have to be careful at all times. Wu Lingfei said to Yi Shang. Aunt Fei, I understand. Today was probably an accident. With the Divine Knight monarch's deterrence, there shouldn't be any big problems, said Knight Sorrow after thinking for a moment. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation, if he's a gentleman, then it's fine to offend him. The most despicable people are the despicable ones. The Moon Demon monarch attacked you, which shows that he has no bottom line. He might hold a grudge and seek revenge, said Wu Lingfei. Knight Sorrow nodded. The fact that the Moon Demon monarch attacked him meant that there was something wrong. In his heart, his self-interest was paramount. He didn't care about rules or morals. It was very likely that he would deal with him in the future. The reason was simple. Because of Knight Sorrow, he had lost face and had to flee. After Wu Lingfei left Knight Sorrow's room, Knight Sorrow lay on the big bed. He didn't need to cultivate now. What he needed was to relax and prepare for tomorrow's battle. At this time, Qian Zhenyu and his wife were talking. Zhenyu, the situation isn't very good. We know what the people of the Moon Demon world are like. This time, because of Knight Sorrow, they've lost face. I think they'll seek revenge, said Yunyu. Let's not talk about this for now. It's the time of the competition. Knight Sorrow can't be affected too much. When the competition is over, we'll remind him, said Qian Zhenyu. After resting for the night, Yi Shang woke up early. After washing his face and rinsing his mouth, Yi Shang waved his reincarnation spear in the courtyard and stretched his muscles. Then Qian Zhenyu and the others took the people of the Xian Celestial Realm to the continent of the Nine Cloud Square. At this time, only 4 people from the Xian Celestial Realm were going to enter the round of the first Saint of the 100 Worlds. They were Knight Sorrow, Qian Ziwei, Shang Zhengxian, and Yu Wenhan. Shang Zhengxian had the blood of fury, which could increase his fighting capacity by 30%. It was a terrifying talent. There weren't many contestants today, but there were more and more people watching. After all, it was the key to enter the round of the first Saint of the 100 Worlds. They could get a title. A title was a symbol of achievement. They could also get some luck. Knight Sorrow also noticed that the people of the Moon Demon world had retreated. It should be said that they had been expelled. What the Moon Demon monarch had done made the leaders of the continent of the 9 Clouds unhappy. The other monarchs didn't like him either. Today's competition is to pass the continent of the 9 Clouds Tower. Whoever passes the highest will be temporarily ranked first. Of course, the continent of the 9 Clouds Tower also has a title certification. You know what it means. I won't tell you, said King Yuqiong. Brother Knight Sorrow, you have to work hard. This title is really important, said Qian Ziwei to remind Knight Sorrow. Don't worry, Sister Ziwei. I'll work hard, said Knight Sorrow nodding. She said. Chapter 4 Chapter 1017. The nature of Jiuxiao Tower was similar to that of the Ceiling Sky Palace. It was Dao. She looked confused. There are talents in every generation. Seems like he's destined to be the most dazzling one. He's too young. He's a king in 100 years. If he can enter the king realm before he's 200 years old, he'll be a legend, said King No Beginning. Cultivation is one thing. The main thing is that he has fighting power that matches and surpasses his cultivation. I don't know whose disciple he is. Does Shen Tian know? King Zishao asked King Shen Tian. I know a little about him. He's from a small world. His teacher in the small world hasn't entered the saint realm yet. He doesn't have a teacher in Tianxian world. He's a disciple of the Tianding Gate. I think he's a saint king alchemist, said King Shen Tian, stroking his beard. The natives of a small world can actually be so heaven-defying and tyrannical. The monarch of the Yuan spirit world sighed with emotion. King Yuan Ling, there's hatred in our generation, but don't involve the young people, said King Shen Tian, looking at King Yuan Ling. Shen Tian, we have fought for countless years, and we will continue to fight in the future. But please remember that I, Yuan Ling, am not a petty person. You should be careful of that bastard Yao Yu, said Sovereign Yuan Ling. King Shen Tian nodded. He knew that Night Sorrow had provoked a mad dog. The moon-worshipping clan of the Moon Demon world were all mad. They were vengeful. Why are the 100 worlds of the continent of the 9 clouds so stable? It's because we fight on small matters. We know what's right and what's wrong. The continent of the 9 clouds is strong, so the other worlds don't dare to provoke us. We can fight, but we can't do things without rules. As for the Moon Demon world, we'll see how to deal with it later, said King Zishao. Hearing King Zizhao's words, all the kings nodded. Night Sorrow had reached the 100th step. Almost everyone was at the same level, but their states were different. The half-step king realm cultivators who had strong rules and willpower didn't consume much energy. The half-step king whose power of rules and power of will were weak, and the peak saint king, who had not grasped the power of will and only had strong battle prowess, had already expended a lot of energy at this time. Night Sorrow ignored the people around him and continued forward. He had not used any other energy yet, mainly because his body was strong enough to withstand it. Saint King Slaughter, Black Demon Saint King, and a few other contestants noticed Night Sorrow because Night Sorrow's performance was indeed dazzling. As they advanced, Night Sorrow released the spatial rule. This way, they could advance faster and offset a portion of the suppression. With the law of space resisting the pressure, Night Sorrow's progress was much smoother. Gradually, he overtook a portion of the others and entered the first echelon. Chen Ziwei, who was not far away from Night Sorrow, was confused. She did not understand what was going on with Night Sorrow. Even in the area where the peak Saint King's energy was suppressed, Night Sorrow was still able to walk freely. This was something no one else could do. It was true that everyone was able to advance, but it was as tiring as fighting. However, Night Sorrow was still as carefree as ever. Say. Chapter 1018. How stylish, said the Seven Rain Monarch as he pointed at the armrest of his chair as he watched Night Sorrow's white robes flutter in the wind. Haha, temperament and poise are innate. Even if their head is cut off the next moment, some people can still maintain their composure. This is a type of temperament and aura, the Purple Cloud Sovereign said. He is still young. Whether or not he can enter the king's realm is still a question. There is no point in praising him like this, an old man sitting next to the No Beginning Sovereign said. This old man had silver hair and a silver beard. There was a hint of coldness in his fierce eyes. He was the head of the Grey Cloud sect, the Grey Cloud Sovereign. He had heard Song Wuyue mention Night Sorrow before, so he was a little unhappy when he heard a group of people talking about Night Sorrow. The Seven Rain Sovereign looked at the Grey Cloud Sovereign and did not say anything. She did not like the way the Grey Cloud Sovereign spoke, but she did not want to offend him directly. After Night Sorrow crossed the 900th step, his body trembled because the pressure suddenly increased. It was not the pressure of a Saint King. The pressure contained the power of will. It was a pressure that attacked one's soul. Since he could not use the 9 regions origin bead, Night Sorrow planned to use the space-time treasure pagoda to defend his deity C. However, at that moment, the golden light of virtue outside Night Sorrow's deity C reacted. It blocked the pressure from Night Sorrow's deity C. Night Sorrow's body also changed.
A solemn golden light appeared behind his head. "Light of virtue," the mysterious heaven sovereign said with some surprise. "Haha, a young man with virtue who has contributed to heaven and earth. Interesting." The no-beginning sovereign narrowed his eyes and sized up Night Sorrow. The power of virtue was too difficult to obtain. Many people wanted to have it, but it was very difficult to do so. However, Night Sorrow's light of virtue had taken shape. It could even be used for defense. Night Sorrow was also shocked. He did not expect the light of virtue to be able to defend against the divine sea. The soul-suppressing energy was blocked. Night Sorrow's will of space supported the space law and continued forward. When the boundless energy reached Night Sorrow, most of it landed on empty space. It was as if Night Sorrow was not in this space. Night Sorrow continued to advance. The other contestants who had reached this level were not so relaxed. They had to pay a huge price to advance. After advancing 100 steps, the pressure on Night Sorrow became even greater. There was no problem with the divine sense sea, but the majestic pressure on the steps made it difficult for him to bear. Taking a deep breath, Night Sorrow's protective shield slashed forward, cutting the pressure energy. Original version. First after another 50 steps, Night Sorrow felt that this wasn't going to work. His will of space didn't have as much effect on the other elements as it did on the power of space. If his space energy ran out, it would be troublesome. After making up his mind, Night Sorrow switched his protective shield. The power of desolates protected his body, and the will of space was added to the power of time. He continued to advance. At this time, only a small portion of the contestants who had reached level 900 could still walk. This was because the pressure from the will of soul was very difficult to bear. The ones closest to Night Sorrow were the Slaughter Holy King and Black Demon Holy King. 3,000 years ago, they had ranked 3rd and 5th respectively. They were the best of their generation. 3,000 years had passed, and their comprehension could not keep up. They could not enter the King realm, but at least they did not regress. They were now rushing towards the will of heaven and earth cave. They did not have much lifespan left. To break through the 10,000-year lifespan limit in the Saint King realm, one had to have a breakthrough in life force. Night Sorrow could do it because his vitality was very strong. His body was almost entirely made of energy. Other than that, there were also those who were favored by the heavens and earth and had extraordinary talents. For example, Yan Huifeng of the Heavenly Cauldron sect was from the same era as Yao Qing. He had already lived for 20,000 years. The reason for this was because he was a demonic beast that had taken human form. His original form was an ice jiao, a water elemental life form. Of course, such situations were relatively rare. After advancing another step, the pressure changed again. This time it was the suppression of will of heaven and earth. The energy also increased. Night Sorrow also increased his will of space to resist the will of 9 Heavens Treasure Pagoda suppression. At this time, many of the contestants had taken pills. They were all high-grade pills that could instantly restore their cultivation. Night Sorrow was absorbing the space energy provided by Shao Kong to restore his space energy. The group continued to advance, but the difference in speed was huge. Night Sorrow was now at the front, which meant that he was at the highest height. Everyone else was behind him. After reaching level 400, the will of heaven and earth increased again. Night Sorrow's power of desolates had been greatly depleted, so he switched to nihility energy. Instead of slowing down, his speed increased. At this time, many of the contestants could no longer move forward because the suppression was too strong. In addition, this stage was not a stage where they had to fight to the death. There was also a ranking challenge. They felt that this was the way. It's not that simple. Without will of heaven and earth, you won't be able to get there. Others don't have this ability. Slaughter Saint King, Black Demon Saint King, and my disciple haven't reached this level, Without King said. That's right. He is now infinitely close to King. If everything goes well, he can enter the will of heaven and earth cave. When he comes out, he will definitely be king. Purple Firmament Sovereign expressed his opinion. I'm interested in his title. Let's see what the 9 Heavens Pagoda will give him later, Seven Rain Sovereign said as he looked at Night Sorrow, who was meditating. At this time, there were peak-level Saint Kings and half-step King Kings who couldn't withstand the pressure and fell down the 9 Heavens sky stairs. Then, they were expelled from the 9 Heavens Tower. The contestants who came out of the Nine Heavens Tower all had a golden light appear above their heads. Then they were given a title. Everyone's title was different. Isn't the title chosen by oneself? Aoi asked Thousand Rose, who was beside her. No. The Nine Heavens Tower can sense a cultivator's soul. It can even investigate and give the most suitable title, Thousand Rose said with a sigh. She had lost this opportunity. Speak. Chapter 10-19. See T. Genius 1 second remember love/go/little? I'll provide you with some interesting novels to read. Aoi didn't say anything. She was worried about Night Sorrow's title. Night Sorrow had the title of Immortal Holy King in the Nine Regions world, which was a forbidden title. But what was his title in Jiuxiao Pagoda? Would it be the same? In that case, would Yi Shang's title be rejected? Would he fail to get a title? Yang Lei and Aoi looked at each other. They were both worried. The birth of a forbidden title was a threat to Night Sorrow. Geniuses would be envied. If someone was jealous, they might have designs on Night Sorrow. Killing geniuses was something that many cultivators were willing to do. As time passed, many people couldn't withstand the pressure and left. Shang Zhengxian came out too. He received the title of Tianjing Holy King. His title in Tiannan dynasty was Tianjing Crown Prince. Qian Ziwei came out too. Her title was Ziwei Holy King, which was the same as the rumors. Although it didn't change, more people would know the name Ziwei. It was also a blessing of fate. Then came Black Demon Holy King and Slaughter Holy King. Both of them had titles. When they came out of Jiuxiao Pagoda, golden light appeared in their bodies. Then it formed runes. The runes were blessed by the golden light in the air and then entered their bodies. At this moment, Night Sorrow heard a voice in his ear. Your situation is special. You have a body of merit and the power of the world is protecting you. You should have been recognized by a spatial world. But if you want to be recognized by me, you have to be tested. If I don't think you're suitable, I can't give you your original title. Please go to read a book. Night Sorrow thought for a moment. He knew that Jiuxiao Pagoda was related to the origin of the world. It was a manifestation of the heavenly Tao. It wouldn't hurt him. He nodded. Yes, I have been recognized by a spatial world. I also have a title. You have the acknowledgement of another world's origin energy, and you have the blessing of virtue. This is the affirmation of the heavenly Tao. Now, release your protective energy. I want to know more about you. The voice once again rang out in Night Sorrow's ears. After hesitating for a moment, Night Sorrow withdrew his protective energy. At this moment, the pressure on the stairway of the nine clouds still existed, but Night Sorrow no longer had the energy suppression around him. A moment later, the voice sounded again. With your situation, it wouldn't be too much to ask for a taboo title. What title do you have now? Yi Shang didn't hide anything and told him his title. Titled Undying is indeed very big, but it's also suitable. A voice rang out, confirming Night Sorrow's title. I don't want others to know about this. Senior, can you help me? Night Sorrow asked. Sure. After you leave this place, I will conceal your seal imprint and directly bless you with it. After the voice sounded out, Night Sorrow's body was also sent out of the Nine Clouds Pagoda. At this moment, the incense outside the Nine Clouds Pagoda had been extinguished, meaning that half a day had passed. Night Sorrow was the last to come out. At this moment, everyone wanted to know what title Night Sorrow, who was the last to come out of the Nine Clouds Pagoda, had. However, some people were also worried. Wu Ling concubine, Night Sorrow's parents, and the people around him were all worried. This was because once the word undying came out, the problem would be very serious. At this moment, the golden light above Night Sorrow's head shone brightly. Following this, 2 golden imprints appeared on his body. After the golden light in the sky buffed the golden imprints, the imprints were sent back into Night Sorrow's body. All of this happened very quickly, and no one noticed anything. This situation made Wu Ling concubine and the others feel relieved because Night Sorrow's situation hadn't been exposed. What's going on? Xiao Monarch, why can't I see what this title is? Seven Rain Monarch looked at Xiao Monarch and asked. This situation has never happened before. He definitely has a title, but we don't know what title it is. You all know that the Nine Clouds Pagoda is the place where the origin of the Nine Clouds Pagoda manifests. Brother and I can communicate sometimes, but we can't force it, said Xiao Monarch. Let's arrange the meeting first. His title is his problem. Let's not get to the bottom of it. It's meaningless, said No Beginning Monarch. Everyone was very curious, but they didn't continue asking. The title was Night Sorrow's problem. Now, the first sage of the 100 Worlds had to continue. Next, the rankings came out. Yi Shan was naturally first, followed by Slaughter Saint King, then Black Demon Saint King. Chen Ziwei was naturally outside the top 10. Shang Zhengshuan's ranking was also very high, in the 20s. His bloodline talent was berserk, and his amplification was very high, so he could compete in the Nine Heavens Tower. Qing Yin was 5th. Her 10,000 years of cultivation was not fake. Chen Bai's ranking was also not bad, in the 20s. Hei Feng was behind him. Night Sorrow didn't know the rest, but he would definitely cross paths with them because he had to face some challenges. No one was jealous of the first place? There were too many people staring at him. Night Sorrow wasn't worried. He knew that what he needed to do next was to fight fiercely and make a deterrent force. Then no one would have any ideas about him. After Sovereign King Yuqiong announced the current rankings, today's assembly came to an end. Cultivators had a long lifespan, so the progress of the assembly was not in a hurry. Besides, the current state of the participants was not very good, so they all needed to go back and recuperate. Qing Yin, Chen Bai, and Hei Feng all congratulated Night Sorrow. Some people didn't know Night Sorrow, so they thought it might be because of luck. However, Qing Yin and the other two knew that Night Sorrow's ranking was definitely deserved. After returning to his residence, Night Sorrow brewed a pot of heart-cleansing tea. Look at the original OD. Night Sorrow, this time, it's your responsibility to clear the name of the Xian Celestial Realm, Chen Yu said. Although he had failed, he wasn't discouraged. Sister Ziwei is here. Sister Ziwei can do it, Night Sorrow said with a smile. What can I do? The people in front are all fierce. My goal is to get into the top 10. It's fine as long as I can get in, Chen Ziwei said with a smile. At this point, no one dared to boast because every battle meant that they would be fighting against an expert. 13. There are probably many people eyeing the first place. Be careful, Aoi reminded Night Sorrow. Don't worry. If they want to challenge me, they have to get into the top 10 no matter what. It's not that easy to get into the top 10. Now those in the top 10 have to defend their positions first before they can challenge me, Night Sorrow said with a smile. The rules of the challenge weren't complicated. It started from the 100th place. After the 100th place, the winner would swap places with the loser. Then, it would be the 99th place. The 99th place couldn't challenge the two people who had just fought. If they won, they would advance. If they lost, they would keep their original position. Then it would be the 98th place and so on. They couldn't challenge people who had fought within 3 rounds. This way, the challenge would go on for 10 rounds. Well, 10 rounds. That's more troublesome. Young Lei said. Chapter 1020. See under T. Genius 1 second remember love/go/little? Shuo Net provides you with wonderful novels to read. Please go here to read. Third sister, don't challenge Night Sorrow. Even if you're in front of him, don't touch him, Luo Qisha reminded Qing Yin. Don't worry, brother. I'm not an ungrateful person, Qing Yin said with a smile. Don't talk about being ungrateful. Don't challenge him either. He's too strong. You're not his match. If I'm not wrong, he'll start attacking you, Luo Qisha said. Don't worry, brother. I know what I'm doing. But this guy is really special. He entered the pressure zone of King's territory and didn't get hit, Qing Yin murmured. What does that mean? It means he's strong enough to enter the pressure zone of King's territory. His strength is infinitely close to that of King. If Slaughter Saint King and Black Demon Saint King don't have sharp eyes, they'll die this time, Luo Qisha said. I don't know what his title is. I'm curious about that, Hei Feng said. I want to know too, but my teacher and the other kings don't know. Maybe he's the only one who knows, Luo Qisha said. That's not right. We know about Jiuxiao Tower. It's the place where the original strength of Jiuxiao realm manifests. Isn't the birth of a titled cultivator announced to the world? Why is it so mysterious? Heifeng said. Luo Qixia also fell into deep thought. After pondering for a while, he raised his head and looked at his junior brother and sister. I thought of a problem. 2 golden light seals were drawn out from his body. They were originally there. The 9 Heavens Pagoda's golden light only strengthened them. This means that his situation is similar to Slaughter Saint King and Black Demon Saint King. He already had a title before. Chen Bai and Heifeng looked at each other and didn't say anything. They knew Night Sorrow, but they didn't know him well. In fact, Luo Qixia was not the only one who had such an analysis. The other sovereigns also had such thoughts. Otherwise, there was no reasonable explanation. After returning to the guest house, Night Sorrow felt a lot more at ease, because his title did not cause any big problems. If the title of Immortal Saint King was exposed, then he would not be able to walk in front of others because there would definitely be a lot of people who had designs on him. Night Sorrow, the next stage is the most dangerous because this is the last stage. Everyone wants to be number 1, said Wu Lingfei. Don't worry, Auntie Fei. I'll kill anyone who dares to challenge me. No matter who it is, even if it's a descendant of a great power, I won't hold back. If they want to step on me, they'll have to pay the price. Night Sorrow said. That's what you have to do. If you don't go all out, then you won't be intimidating. Then you really have to endure 10 rounds of challenges. If you kill a few at the beginning, then no one will touch you in the next few rounds. Chen Yu also agreed with Night Sorrow. Chen Ziwei also wouldn't challenge Night Sorrow. Sister Ziwei, I'm sorry. I didn't think before I spoke. Night Sorrow looked at Chen Ziwei with some embarrassment. Haha, what are you thinking? Sister Ziwei won't challenge you. Just kill. Some people can't be spoiled, said Chen Ziwei with a smile. Then, everyone went to rest. Chen Zhenyu and his wife talked to their daughter and son. They mainly talked to Chen Ziwei. Ziwei, the first few rounds don't have much meaning. You have to conserve your strength. Just stand at the front and observe others. Once you're familiar with your target, then fight with all your strength. Just be in the top 10, said Yun Yu to Chen Ziwei. I understand. This is a strategy. I'll also talk to Night Sorrow and ask him to do the same. He doesn't have enough experience, said Chen Ziwei. Silly girl. He's different from you. He's already in the first place, so he can't come down easily. He'll kill whoever he wants. He doesn't need any strategy, said Chen Zhenyu as he shook his head. After being stunned for a moment, Chen Ziwei nodded. She also understood the logic. Different positions meant different tactics. Father, mother, this brother of mine is quite powerful, right? Said Chen Yu with a smile. Chen Zhenyu and Yun Yu both smiled. They knew in their hearts that Night Sorrow wasn't just powerful. In this year's first sage ceremony, Night Sorrow was destined to be the most dazzling. If he could reach the top of the 9 Heavens Pagoda, as long as his actual combat ability wasn't weak, he was destined to have a good ranking. Night Sorrow's actual combat ability was weak? No one believed this because during the selection, Night Sorrow had slaughtered everyone. At that time, although there were good and bad contestants, there weren't any rookies. After resting for a night, Night Sorrow washed up, tidied up his robe, and casually waved the reincarnation spear to warm up his body. The Chen sisters watched from the side. They didn't understand what Night Sorrow was cultivating when he waved the reincarnation spear at the half-step king's level. This was because Night Sorrow's reincarnation spear had no energy, laws, or willpower. It was just a simple swing of the spear. After Night Sorrow put away the spear, he put it back in the holster on his back. At this time, Chen Ziwei asked. She couldn't suppress her curiosity and wanted to know what Night Sorrow was cultivating. I didn't cultivate anything. For many years I have this habit. When I have nothing to do, I will wave the spear in the morning to warm up my muscles and bones. I want to find the feeling of the spear. Night Sorrow said with a smile. I thought you were cultivating some heaven-defying consummate skill. Chen Ziwei looked at Night Sorrow with disdain. Sister Ziwei, you think too much. When we are ready, we will set off. I don't know how many days the 10 battles will take. Night Sorrow knew that Chen Ziwei and the others were waiting for him. Soon after, the group arrived at the 9 Heavens Square. There were more people than before. Today, the battles would start in pairs. It was a real battle between experts. In addition, the situation of the arena was different from a few days ago. It was newly arranged. At the edge of the arena, there was a row of chairs. Knight Sorrow glanced at it and found that there were exactly 100 chairs. This meant that those were the seats of the top 100 participants of the first sage ceremony. You have seen it. Now, go to your seats. Sit according to the ranking of the 9 Heavens Tower. King Wuxia said to Knight Sorrow and the other participants who had entered the top 100. Hearing Sovereign Wuxia's words, the participants who had entered the top 100 started to sit down. Knight Sorrow was the last to sit down. His seat was very close to the main seat of the sovereigns. After seeing Knight Sorrow sit down, the 7 Rain Sovereigns smiled and nodded at Knight Sorrow. Knight Sorrow cupped his hands in return. He knew that those who could sit in the main seat were all powerful people. When he cupped his hands in return, Knight Sorrow was facing all the sovereigns. They were all seniors. Those who could cultivate to the sovereign realm were worthy of respect. When they saw Knight Sorrow cupping his hands, the other sovereigns nodded. Only the Grey Cloud Sovereign ignored Knight Sorrow. Chapter 10:21. C. Genius 1 second. Remember love go/small? I'll provide you with a wonderful novel to read. Read the full text. Then, Wuxia King walked to the middle of the arena. Everyone knows the rules. However, to prevent any mistakes, I'll repeat it again. You are not allowed to use soul doppelgangers or poison. You are allowed to forfeit. Forfeiting 1 round is only the result of 1 round. You can continue to fight in the next round. Wuxia King explained the challenge mode in detail. After explaining the rules, Wuxia King bowed to the main seat. All right, you may begin. The Purple Cloud Sovereign nodded. With the Purple Cloud Sovereign's words, the ranking challenge officially began. First, it was the 100th place. He stood on the arena and pointed at the 93rd place. It looked like he was pointing at random, but in fact, it was not. In fact, all the contestants had done some research on who they could challenge and who they couldn't. Knight Sorrow didn't do that because it was his last battle. He could watch the previous battles. Besides, even if he checked the information, he could only find the surface. Some people's unique skills couldn't be found out. Some things on the surface were useless. Permanent S exempt 0 fee look equals. Small 5 says E after fighting for half an hour, the 100th place really won. He changed seats with the 93rd place. The new 100th place had just fought, so naturally, he couldn't continue to fight. The next battle was the challenge of the 99th place. The 99th place wasn't as lucky as the previous one, so he failed the challenge. Then the battle went on. There were people specifically recording it, so there wouldn't be any mistakes. This time, it didn't stop in the evening. When the sky turned dark, a bonfire was lit in the arena. The challenge mode was a cycle of battles. They had to fight until the end. In such a cycle of challenges, there was no rest. Because after a round, the person who started the challenge would have rested. When the bonfire was lit, the 50th place was challenged. Knight Sorrow watched other people's battles and learned from their battle experience. To be honest, Knight Sorrow's battle power was strong, but his real battle experience was still lacking compared to others. Knight Sorrow was young, so he didn't have much contact with peak stage Saint Kings and half-step King Saints. These contestants had lived for thousands of years. His experience wasn't as good as theirs. This scene was what he needed. There were all kinds of cultivators and all kinds of styles. This was also the reason why there were so many people watching outside the arena. This was a chance to increase one's experience and knowledge. At this moment, Knight Sorrow turned his head and realized that Saint King Slaughter was looking at him. 3,000 years ago, there were 2 ferocious fellows. That time, I had no choice but to take 3rd place. This time, I'll fight it out with you. Saint King Slaughter looked at Knight Sorrow and said, "Then let's do it." Knight Sorrow nodded at Saint King Slaughter. He felt that although Saint King Slaughter was murderous, he was still an upright person. There was only fighting spirit in his eyes, and there was no evil. Young man, you're amazing. I admire you. You're willing to give it one more shot before the end of your life. Even if you can't break through, you won't have any regrets. Saint King of Slaughter turned his head and said, These words were not only for Night Sorrow, but also for himself. When the opportunity comes, naturally, you'll break through. If you don't break through, it's because the opportunity hasn't arrived yet. The time isn't right yet, Night Sorrow replied. Good. Well said. If you and I don't die after this challenge, we'll drink until we're drunk, Saint King of Slaughter said. I won't die. I'll wait for you, Night Sorrow said. You're talking too big. It's not up to you to decide whether you'll die or not. Black Demon Sage King, who was ranked third, narrowed his eyes at Night Sorrow. Remember this saying well. If you don't seek death, you won't die. If you want to seek death, then no one will stop you. Night Sorrow replied. He hated people who didn't do anything but open their mouths to bite people. You're the one who keeps seeking death. Shang Zhangxian, who was still some distance away from Night Sorrow, continued the conversation. I can't win against you guys. You've won. Let's talk with our strength on the arena. Night Sorrow didn't want to talk anymore. There were too many despicable people. Black Demon King was despicable, and so was Shang Zhangxian. Night Sorrow was still watching the battles. He realized that there was only one person who had a high-level attribute. It was the rule of death, but he hadn't grasped the power of will. This made Night Sorrow realize that high-level attributes were indeed rare. The Peak Saint King with the death attribute didn't enter the Half-Step King because he couldn't grasp the will of death. The battles continued. In the middle of the night, Black Wind fought a battle and entered the top 30. Night Sorrow cupped his hands at Black Wind, congratulating him. It wasn't easy to win a battle. The battles continued. Then, Tiannan Dynasty's Yuan Han also advanced, but he was still outside the top 20. He only advanced 3 places. Next was Chen Ziwei, but she didn't succeed. Her opponent's attacks were very violent. It was the Half-Step King with the fire attribute. After her defeat, Chen Ziwei retained her original position. The other person Night Sorrow paid more attention to, Cong Wushang, also won and entered the top 20. After 2 more battles, it was Chen Bai's turn. Chen Bai's opponent was the Half-Step King. He was very strong, and his will was also a mixed will. It was the will of wind and fire, and his speed was relatively fast. Chen Bai's will of earth thunder was both defensive and offensive. His opponent was fast, but he couldn't gain the upper hand. Night Sorrow knew that Chen Bai didn't really use his full strength. When Chen Bai fought with Chen Yu, Chen Bai used the will of earth to support the gravity suppression. Gravity suppression was an ultimate move that countered speed. His speed would be greatly reduced. Night Sorrow also knew that Chen Bai wanted to preserve his trump card. After all, it was only the first round. He couldn't kill his opponent with brute force, so he had to preserve his trump card and win. When Night Sorrow was predicting when Chen Bai would use the gravity suppression, Chen Bai used another ultimate move. It was a lightning sword technique. It was a set of sword techniques that directly blocked the opponent's path of movement. Then he started to attack. Chen Bai's 2-sword chi pierced through the man's body. Just as he was about to kill him, his opponent surrendered. Chen Bai reached the 12th place. He was already close to the top 10. Night Sorrow stretched his neck. He knew that after entering the top 10, someone would challenge him. The challenges continued. In the blink of an eye, it was the 10th place. The 10th place didn't bite off more than he could chew. He only challenged the 8th place, but he also failed. After all, the 8th place in the 9 Heavens Tower was very strong. The 9th place directly surrendered and gave up the challenge. Actually, this was a wise choice. He would stay still and watch others fight. That way, he would have a higher chance of winning. The 8th place also gave up the challenge. Then, it was Shang Zhengshuan's turn. Shang Zhangxian walked onto the stage and pointed his long sword at Night Sorrow. It's finally my turn. Night Sorrow, come out and die. Chapter 1022. See T. Genius 1 second remember love/go/little? Shuo.net provides you with wonderful novels to read. Mayanhuating.com has almost all the books you want to read. It is much more stable than other websites and updates faster. It is all text and has no advertisements. Go to hell. Shang Zhangxian waved his long sword and slashed towards Night Sorrow. Shang Zhangxian comprehended the mystic fire intent. At this moment, his long sword was filled with fire attribute energy that was supported by the mystic fire intent. Knight Sorrow swung his reincarnation spear and pierced it towards Shang Zhengshuan's long sword. %LC Original 4 Chapter FW on DY. Although he wanted to kill Shang Zhangxian, Knight Sorrow still had to hold back. After all, he still had to continue to face challenges. He had to kill his opponents and make them unable to see through his strength. Only then could he intimidate them. Ding! With a crisp sound, Knight Sorrow was forced back 2 steps. Shang Zhengshuan's long sword was shaken and his body was also forced back. After forcing Shang Zhangxian back, Knight Sorrow's feet shook and he charged forward. He brandished his reincarnation spear and slashed violently. Shang Zhengshuan's expression changed. He knew that Knight Sorrow was very strong, but he didn't expect Knight Sorrow to be this strong. Read the full text. After taking a step back, Shang Zhengshuan's body surged with energy. He faced Knight Sorrow's long spear and slashed violently again. This time, he attacked with all his strength. It was a fire attribute attack that was supported by the mystic fire intent. He wanted to force Knight Sorrow back so that it would be easier for him to fight. There was another explosion, and the two of them separated. However, Shang Zhangxian was the one who retreated the most. Knight Sorrow's body was at the peak of the Saint King realm, and this kind of strength supported by his illusory true qi was astonishing. With a swing of his long spear, Knight Sorrow attacked again. This time, it was supported by the void true qi. Seeing that Knight Sorrow was still attacking head-on, Shang Zhangxian roared and slashed with his sword again. This time, the result was different from the previous 2 head-on collisions. A portion of Shang Zhengshuan's long sword's energy was directly melted before it collided with Knight Sorrow's reincarnation spear. With 30% of his energy depleted, how could Shang Zhangxian fight Knight Sorrow head-on? He was sent flying by Knight Sorrow's spear. What's the situation? He didn't even use his willpower, but he's already so fierce? Yuan Ling Realm Lord's eyes were filled with surprise. That's a real tough guy. His body has already reached a certain level. The contestant from Demon Moonfield didn't manage to break his body even though he didn't use a protective qi shield. That shows how strong his body is, said No Beginning King. After repelling Shang Zhangxian with a single spear strike, Knight Sorrow's feet shook as his body soared into the air, once again lashing out at Shang Zhangxian. When Shang Zhangxian retreated, he once again used his sword to block. Following a buzzing explosion, Shang Zhengshuan's long sword was bent by Knight Sorrow's spear. Shang Zhangxian was also sent flying. Knight Sorrow's reincarnation spear was repelled back. After his body rotated, he continued to attack Shang Zhangxian. This time, Knight Sorrow used the ultimate spear of desolation. He didn't intend to give Shang Zhangxian a chance to defend himself. Shang Zhangxian, who was sent flying, saw Knight Sorrow charging towards him again. He immediately let out a long howl as his hair stood on end. He had activated his berserk bloodline. When Shang Zhangxian used his sword to block Knight Sorrow's reincarnation spear, the energy law on Knight Sorrow's reincarnation spear trembled. He had used the desolation law and power of desolation with the technique of vibration energy. Shang Zhengshuan's long sword was repelled. At the same time, Knight Sorrow's reincarnation spear suddenly accelerated. It penetrated Shang Zhengshuan's defense and pierced towards Shang Zhengshuan's body. Ah! Dang! At this time, a golden armor appeared on Shang Zhengshuan's body. At the same time, his long sword slashed towards Knight Sorrow's head. A Saint King-grade defensive treasure. Chen Zhenyu said in surprise. At this time, Knight Sorrow didn't dodge. He held the reincarnation spear in his right hand and stabbed Shang Zhengshuan's soft armor. At the same time, his left hand punched towards Shang Zhengshuan's head. Reckless! Yunyu stood up. She was worried about Knight Sorrow's safety because this was a lose-lose battle. Even if he won, if he was injured, the following battle would be difficult to continue. But in fact, the result was different from what Yunyu had expected. Knight Sorrow's violent spear strike shattered Shang Zhengshuan's golden soft armor. At the same time, his left fist punched Shang Zhengshuan's long sword, repelling it and pushing Shang Zhangxian back. Knight Sorrow's protective qi shield slashed and caught up with Shang Zhangxian, whose soft armor was shattered and his internal organs were shaken. Knight Sorrow thrust his reincarnation spear forward again. This time, Knight Sorrow used Nihility Extreme Strike. Shang Zhengxian held his sword with both hands and slashed at Night Sorrow again. He couldn't retreat anymore because he had reached the edge of the ring. As the two weapons collided, a purple halo burst out from the tip of Night Sorrow's reincarnation spear. As the halo burst out, the long sword in Shang Zhengshuan's hand was broken. After breaking Shang Zhengshuan's long sword, Night Sorrow's body soared into the air. Using his left foot as the foundation, he kicked Shang Zhengshuan's chest with his right foot with violent energy. Shang Zhengxian, whose long sword was broken, turned his right hand and stuck the long sword to his right arm. He crossed his arms to block Night Sorrow's kick. Pang! With a muffled sound, Shang Zhengxian was kicked away by Night Sorrow like a sandbag. The broken sword stuck to his arm was broken again. Shang Zhengxian, who was kicked away, spat out a mouthful of blood. At this moment, Night Sorrow directly used Space Rend. A black Space Rend slashed towards Shang Zhengshuan's body. I admit defeat. Shang Zhengxian, whose eyes were filled with fear, shouted. Freeze! Sovereign Zi Xiao stood up and extended his right hand towards the ring. He smoothed out the space rend created by Night Sorrow. Didn't you want to kill me? Kill me with your mouth? Speak with your strength in the future, you dog. Night Sorrow scolded and cupped his hands towards the sovereign in front of the ring. Zi Xiao also nodded towards Night Sorrow. He liked Night Sorrow's character. He was usually quiet, but when a gentleman was angry, he was like a tyrant. King Yu Qiong then announced Night Sorrow's victory. Night Sorrow cupped his hands towards King Yu Qiong and nodded towards King Yu Qiong. Then, he walked towards his seat. Qing Yin stood up and cupped her hands towards Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow's victory was not difficult at all. From the beginning of the battle, he had suppressed Shang Zhengshuan's attacks. It could be said that it was a one-sided battle. Then the sixth person stood up. I, Long Jin, originally wanted to challenge you, Night Sorrow. But since you have already fought, then forget about it. Of course, I might not be your opponent. This man, who was wearing a golden robe and had a pair of smiling eyes, looked at Night Sorrow and said, A man cannot be afraid. If this round is not enough, then let's try again in the next round. Night Sorrow cupped his hands towards Long Jin. He admired Long Jin's magnanimity. What a man! If he wanted to fight, he would say it out loud. At this moment, Long Jin looked at Qing Yin. Long Jin was the sixth person. The person in front of him was Qing Yin. Qing Yin held onto the armrest of her seat and stood up. No. I, Long Jin, do not steal from women. Even if I did, it would be embarrassing. The one in front of the woman, stand up. Long Jin waved his hand towards Qing Yin. Then he looked towards the front. Chapter 1023. See Undersert. Genius 1 second remember love/go/little? We provide you with interesting novels to read. Read the full article. Do you want to die? The Black Demon Sage King stood up after Long Jin passed the fourth place. I want to die, I want you to die. Uf*Ker. I won't say anything about you being useless after living for so long. I can understand that you want to snatch the opportunity. But what are you pretending for? You killed my people during the selections. Today, I will destroy you. A battle saber appeared in Long Jin's hand. Seeing the battle saber in Long Jin's hand, Night Sorrow's eyes lit up. The battle saber was too unique and too cool. The handle was 1.5 feet long and the body of the saber was 1.5 feet long. The body of the saber was rippling with light. Night Sorrow knew that this was a real killing weapon. The endless sky blade of 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 the endless sky realm. Saint King Slaughter said softly. At the same time, he looked at the main seat. The sovereign of the endless sky realm was sitting there. You know quite a lot. A lady on the main seat opened her eyes. This lady had sky blue hair. Her face was like a full moon. Her almond-shaped eyes were cold and arrogant. Saint King Slaughter stood up and bowed to this lady with sky blue hair. Hee. This is the reputation of the endless sky realm. Sovereign Shen Tian laughed. That's right. Why are you all looking at me? I just said that he knows quite a lot. After glancing at Sovereign Purple Firmament and No Beginning Sovereign, this lady, who was Sovereign Hai Lan, closed her eyes again. Very fierce. Night Sorrow realized that this lady was very fierce. Although she had covered it up with a single sentence, when she spoke, her eyes were filled with killing intent. Saint King Slaughter sat down. However, he wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. He couldn't bear the killing intent that Sovereign Hai Lan had directed at him just now. At this moment, the battle on the stage had already started. Night Sorrow knew that Black Demon Sage King was going to be in trouble. Long Jin was too strong. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation J. Long Jin had the will of extreme water and was also of the water attribute. The true intent of extreme water was augmented by the water attribute laws and water attribute energy, greatly increasing its power. Night Sorrow squinted his eyes as he looked at it. This was because there was something familiar in the water attribute of the dragon gold. Long Jin brandished his endless sky saber and slashed continuously. His saber aura had already taken shape and was suppressing the Black Malevolent Sage King. It's not your fault that you're old, and it's also not your fault that your aptitude isn't good enough. I can tolerate your shamelessness, but if you dare to provoke my Hai Lan realm, I'll kill you. Long Jin kept slashing with his blade as he cursed. Trying to act all high and mighty in front of us? You're courting death. Monarch Hai Lan opened his eyes again and stared at the stage. The Black Demon Sage King was feeling aggrieved. He could not unleash his attacks and was completely suppressed by Long Jin. Long Jin's saber aura and saber skills were domineering, but he was even more domineering. Seeing that there was no chance of victory for him, the Black Malevolent Sage King knew that he would be severely injured or killed if he were to persist any longer. Thus, he decided to surrender. Grandson, aren't you awesome? Let me tell you now. You're just a bastard. Long Jin scolded the Black Malevolent Sage King. The Black Malevolent Sage King's face turned pale. Long Jin had slapped him hard in the face. It was not only in terms of words, but also in terms of strength. Long Jin went to the third seat and took out a silk handkerchief. After wiping his face, he threw the handkerchief aside and sat down. The Black Malevolent Sage King could only slink to the sixth seat. The third seat was taken by Long Jin. After Long Jin's challenge, it was the fifth place, Qing Yin's turn. I give up this round. Qing Yin stood up and said. King Yu Qiong nodded at Qing Yin. Giving up now was actually a strategic move. It could also be considered as concealing one's strength. At this moment, the fourth person stood up. Sir, I give up for now too. Those who chose to endure now were all smart people. It was the same in the final stage. At that time, they would be able to see the strength of their opponents. They would be able to see who they could challenge and who they could not. Long Jin, who had just reached the third place, gave up too. King Yu Qiong then looked at the second place, Saint King Slaughter. It's not wise to fight now. However, I can't control my temper. Night Sorrow, we will fight sooner or later. Let's start now. Saint King Slaughter stood up and said to Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow also stood up. He knew that this battle was unavoidable. It might also be the most difficult battle because Saint King Slaughter might be the strongest in this batch. Then, the two of them walked onto the arena. I, Saint King Slaughter, only fight to kill. If you die, then it's your bad luck. Saint King Slaughter stood on the arena. All right. Victory and defeat are also determined by life and death. Life and death are up to fate. Night Sorrow waved his reincarnation spear and was ready for battle. With a low roar, Saint King Slaughter waved his battle blade and charged towards Night Sorrow. Massacre intent. Fire intent. Saint King Slaughter used the fire intent to support the massacre intent in battle. The smell of blood assaulted Yi Shiwen's face. Night Sorrow's innate bloodline protection shield was propped up. The space intent was also unleashed. With a diagonal slash, his body drew an arc and dodged Saint King Slaughter's first slash. After dodging this slash, Night Sorrow rushed forward. The space intent directly cut open the large area of fire energy that Saint King Slaughter used. Then, he stabbed his spear towards Saint King Slaughter. Kill! Saint King Slaughter roared. His blade slashed towards Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow's right arm shook. The space intent supported the space intent and shot out a spear attack. Bang! With a muffled sound, Saint King Slaughter was sent flying by Night Sorrow's spear attack. The space intent had an absolute suppression on ordinary intents. In addition to Night Sorrow's tyrannical body, Saint King Slaughter was naturally at a disadvantage. After sending Saint King Slaughter flying, Night Sorrow's protection shield slashed and chased up to Saint King Slaughter. Then, he unleashed another fierce spear attack. With a furious roar, Saint King Slaughter combined his arms and slashed out again. At the same time, he borrowed the recoil force of the blade light to speed up his retreat. Then, he continued to attack. However, Night Sorrow's speed was too fast. The Space Intent's energy shield slashed at the Space Intent, which greatly aided his speed. After dodging Saint King Slaughter's blade light, the Reincarnation Spear attacked Saint King Slaughter with streaks of spear light. Saint King Slaughter relied on the Mystic Flame Intent to increase his speed. He dodged Night Sorrow's attacks. Although he was in a sorry state, he could still resist. Since his attacks couldn't land, he couldn't defeat Saint King Slaughter in a short period of time. Night Sorrow directly used the Space Blade. At the back of Night Sorrow's neck, streaks of Space Blade flew towards Saint King Slaughter. When Saint King Slaughter hurriedly dodged, Night Sorrow used his trump card, Soul Extinguishing Slash. The crescent slash with a purple halo, under the support of Night Sorrow's Space Intent, instantly streaked across the space and slashed toward Saint King Slaughter's head. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.